League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye Ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire is also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles." And some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them, like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
Good evening, you're listening to the Transfer Insiders with me, broadcaster and Liverpool fan, Rickie Haywood-Williams, and I'm delighted to be joined by presenter, podcaster and reporter extraordinaire, massive Villa fan as well, Mr. Dan Bardell. What's going on, Dan?
Good, mate. Good to see you. Good to work with you.
We've got a bumper show for you in store tonight as we look at all the big transfer stories in the news tonight, most notably Bruno Guimaraes and that potential move to Arsenal edging ever closer. We'll also look at Gianni Infantino's tragic proposal and Chelsea avoiding any real sporting sanctions for breaching agent payment regulations. So plenty going on, and you'll be able to hear it all right here on the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Mr. Dan Bardell, how are you, sir?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good. Obviously, tons going on, as always. Doesn't matter that it's Friday night. There's still tons to talk about.
Lots to talk about, lots to get through today. But how's your week been so far, man?
Yeah, really good. Obviously, my team's been pretty quiet this week, but as I say, always just a ton of stuff going on. Probably didn't imagine that this FIFA World Cup stuff would happen. Infantino had a quiet few days, hadn't he, and decided he needed to do something. So yeah, that's definitely taken me by surprise.
Do you know what? I've actually had an absolute nightmare of a day. I've got a wedding to go to tomorrow.
Oh no!
And trying to get everything sorted out for tomorrow, knowing that I'm going to be on the radio tonight. It's been an absolute nightmare. But listen, we move. We are here. Lots going on. Lots to talk about. Let's start with the Prime Minister. Andy Burnham, he said earlier today that FIFA President Gianni Infantino was the wrong man to lead the organisation, and it comes after the senior advisor to Infantino resigned and a third confederation opposed plans to sell stakes in competitions to investors. Carlos Cordera, Infantino's senior advisor on the global strategy and governance, resigned as well, saying the proposal was a bad deal for football. It's a crazy day, right?
Yeah, very reminiscent of the Super League when the big boys tried to run amok and get themselves away and do the Super League. I've actually been pleasantly surprised with the reaction. Like, quite often when something like this happens, you worry about how the governing bodies are going to react and how they're going to see things. But I must say the kind of strong arm from UEFA, the way they've come out and some of the other places as well. I'm really, really refreshed and really, really pleased to see that, because fundamentally this is wrong. Like, FIFA are custodians of the World Cup.
Yeah.
I know technically they do own it, but the fans own the game. The countries that are involved in the World Cup, it's a massive, monumental, historical event, and the fact that it feels like one individual can come in and try and take that away from us, or try and take a part of that away from us.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, it's really, really wrong. Whether it's 20%, 2%, 5%, whatever, it's just completely wrong. And I'm hoping it's over before it started. But you never know with FIFA.
You never know with FIFA. Do you know what? I am actually really happy, and I'm quite surprised as well with the reaction of UEFA and the way that everybody's jumped on this and kind of gone, do you know what? We're not having this at all.
Yeah, it's needed, because maybe the clubs outside of Europe, some of the outside of Asia, maybe some of the other clubs, some of the other countries would have been willing to go for it. And I think that's a key thing here. It's not just down to the confederations. Like, every individual country has a say and basically has a vote into whether this happens or not. I just think it's a case of one individual, though, having too much power. Infantino's done a lot of stuff that maybe you could look at and say is suspect, and almost got away with it. Like, the last 2 World Cups have had a lot of controversy around them, but the end product in terms of the football has been really, really good. So maybe that's made people turn a blind eye to some of the stuff that the Infantino is trying to do. But off the back of the last World Cup that's just gone, where there's so much stuff happening, so much stuff going on, that it's for financial gain as well. Like, you're not exactly strapped for cash, are you?
It's so obvious. It's so obvious, isn't it?
It's the only reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, there's no other reason
Absolutely.
for doing it.
Now, the Asian Football Confederation said it stands in solidarity with UEFA and CONCACAF counterparts in denouncing Infantino's proposal. Infantino proposed FIFA members that they'll receive $40 million each if they back this controversial proposal, with the deadline of the 19th of September. Do you think that Infantino can possibly continue in his role as FIFA president if this doesn't go through?
I think it'll be very, very difficult. I think maybe some of the other decisions he's made, like maybe no one's come out against him, or maybe no one's been strong enough against him. He'll obviously himself have a team of people as well, and one of his trusted aides has left off the back of this. I imagine that's maybe took Infantino by surprise, because when you hear that man speak, one thing he seems to definitely lack is a little bit of self-awareness. Yeah. Like, whenever he comes out and speaks about anything.
We've all seen the trainers. We've all seen the trainers in the suit.
Yeah, he's trying to take football a certain way, isn't he? And it's like when the Super League came across, like, FIFA almost just wanted something that UEFA had got. UEFA had got something right. FIFA wanted to come and take that away from them and trying to create something bigger. In my opinion, there's nothing bigger than the World Cup. But he's in it for financial gain. I mean, I might be speaking out of turn here, but you can only imagine that if some of these deals go through, they're going to benefit him in some sort of way massively, aren't they, Infantino? He's in it all for himself, and that's not what the World Cup is about. The World Cup is completely sacred and shouldn't be touched.
Absolutely. Well, listen, former Scottish FA Chief Executive Gordon Smith was on there with Alex Crook and Dara McAntony and explained why the finances of the proposal didn't make sense.
Is the fact that we don't really know the circumstances. All he's saying is these people are coming in, they're going to invest in the World Cup and take a percentage of ownership. They haven't even mentioned what sort of percentage that will be, what they want to do with the World Cup, what they'll be paying the clubs for playing in it. I mean, and Infantino just more or less is saying, you'll all get $20 million now if you agree to this and vote for it in favour of it. Now, he's also been saying there's going to be $20 billion coming in at the moment for this right away, for this money. So if each country gets $20 million, that only works out at about $4.5 billion. And he's saying they're going to put in $20 billion. So we're not really getting the proper information on what this is all about.
Could the 40 million proposal have been enticing to some confederations, you think?
I'd imagine so. Look, ultimately, in a lot of industries, in a lot of ways, money is really, really important, and not all nations will be as flush as our country.
Yeah.
For example, like, you'd imagine straight away our country's gone, no, this isn't happening. We're not going to go along with this. It wouldn't have even been a discussion point. for maybe some of the smaller confederations, for some of the smaller nations, they'd look at this and say, well, actually, this is going to be beneficial for us. This is something that's really going to help us. I can't speak for those confederations or those nations because I don't know the ins and outs. But I don't feel like that's the driver. It's like when Infantino spoke about ticket prices and tried to make out we're doing this because it helps the smaller nations. Yep. That money goes back into football. Ultimately, I don't really think that's true. And would they have seen a big enough slice of that? Probably not. I guess their hope, or Infantino's hope, would have been, can we tempt enough to go along with this if the financial gain is large enough?
Yeah. Could that potentially be why there was no statement from the African or South American confederations, do you think?
Yeah, possibly. They're nations and the confederations that would maybe look at this as being a positive. Not every nation qualifies for the World Cup and the financial stuff that comes along with that. I know they've got the African Cup of Nations, but that comes with its own problems because sometimes, certainly in this country, it doesn't get picked up by the right broadcasters or is broadcast in the correct way. So I guess there will be silence. And some nations and confederations as well will be thinking, I don't necessarily want to speak about this because if we speak about it in a negative way and then it happens, will something work against us and vice versa?
Will we get left out? Yeah, exactly. But do you know what? Do you know what I'm worried about? Surely Infantino wouldn't have created this proposal and reportedly work on it for over a year without thinking that he's not going to get backed ultimately.
Well, you say that, I wouldn't be 100% convinced by that. Like, how many people does Infantino run his ideas by? Has he run it by iShowSpeed and Rio Ferdinand, the influencers that are alongside him in the World Cup? I don't know. I just, like I said at the start, I'm just not sure he's self-aware enough to realise that this is fundamentally a really terrible and abhorrent idea.
Yeah, for me personally, you just look at FIFA and you look at the top of the tree and you just go, look, we had all this kind of nonsense with Sepp Blatter. We thought we'd got over that. We thought we got like a fresh start. And it feels like we're just in Groundhog Day, doesn't it?
It's a bad time when Sepp Blatter suddenly looks all right. I suddenly read what Sepp Blatter's saying on social media and think,
have you seen it? I've seen it as well.
You know what? Maybe Sepp wasn't that bad. Maybe he got a little bit of a bad day. Someone like run on stage and throw a load of pound notes at him or a load of dollar bills at him at one point. Like, Infantino's 100 times worse than Sepp Blatter, and I didn't think that would be possible.
All that aside, though, did you enjoy the World Cup? I know you were. Did you go to the World Cup?
No. I worked on it, but I did everything from this country or from
your perspective. How did the World Cup go for you?
Yeah, I think it was. I enjoyed it. I think the football was really good, and obviously that's the bit I care about on the pitch. What happens, and the football was a really good product. You can argue about loads of stuff off the pitch, and there's loads of stuff, a ton of stuff, absolutely wrong that shouldn't be happening. But from what I saw of the World Cup, there's some brilliant moments. If you like Cape Verde. Like, my favourite game was their first game against Spain.
Absolutely.
It was absolutely incredible. Some of the stories that have been made from that, some of the people that have turned into superstars, some of their players off the back of it. Like, that's what the World Cup's about for me, giving people a platform where they might not usually get one. And Cape Verde ran away with that and could have knocked out the eventual finalists in Argentina. Like, they were very close. They scored the best goal of the tournament, so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed England until Thomas Tuchel decided we needed 6 or 7 defenders on the pitch to see out a game. At one point,
I'm still not over it.
No, I've got over it now. I'm back into the club football, so I'm over it. But I had every tournament, you have a moment where you allow yourself to believe that England might win the tournament.
Oh, mate, that's me every
After Mexico, tournament. I was like, you know what? we might do this here. We've got something about us. And then, unfortunately, we tried to use that game plan two or three times afterwards that worked against Mexico and didn't work again. But I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't think I'd enjoy it because of the 48 team thing. But actually, I did in the end. And actually, the 64 team thing, which is another one of Infantino's idea, I actually think that's a good idea.
Oh, so you would welcome the 64 team?
Only reason, or the main reason, is because I think it eliminates all the rubbish around third place and adds a little bit of jeopardy, because it would even everything out where it would just mean the top 2 from each group go through. So I think it would actually make the football a better product than the 48 team. Actually, it either needs to be 32 or needs to be 64, which is probably weird to hear on the radio right now.
All right, more about that in a little bit. Right now, though, tonight, the Scottish Premiership season gets underway with Dundee United hosting Rangers at 8 p.m. Reporting for talkSPORT is John Dunn, and he's got the team news for us.
Yeah, the opening game of the Scottish Premiership season and the first game for Derek McInnes in charge of Rangers. Last season took Hearts so close to winning the title and ending over 40 years of Old Firm dominance. Rangers ending last season in third. McInnes has brought in 8 new players to try and get them back on top of the pile, including Lawrence Shankland and Cammy Devlin, who have followed McInnes from Hearts. They both start tonight, as does goalkeeper Ivor Pandor, fresh from promotion with Hull, and defender Ben Godfrey on loan from Atalanta. Dundee United have already got their season up and running. This is game number 5 after 4 matches in the League Cup. New recruit Lachlan Rose has scored 3 in 4 since arriving from Australia. 10 new recruits in total for Jim Goodwin. 6 of them start tonight, including another Aussie in Joshua Rawlings. Set to be a full house at Tannadice for Dundee United and Rangers.
Thanks there to John Dunn reporting on Dundee United versus Rangers. We are also into day 8 of the Commonwealth Games, and with the latest is our reporter Georgie Heath.
Hello, good evening. Plenty going on around Glasgow this evening. Lots going on the cycling and the track, but 10 athletic golds up for grabs tonight, including England's Georgia Hunter-Bell in the 800 metre. Sammy Ball in the men's decathlon is currently sitting in bronze with 2 events to go. Then over in the boxing, plenty of action. Semi-finals today. The women's 51, 60 and 75 kilograms have all got English fighters in action. And then over in the men's 60 kilograms, Wales's Owen Harris Allen. Whereas over in the men's 90 plus, Demar Thomas got a walkover, so he's straight into the final. And then also there was a gold in the judo for England's Asela Toprick, with bronze even in the under 57 kilograms. So plenty going on, and then it will all accumulate with both the men's and women's 200 metre finals on the track.
Commonwealth Games update on talkSPORT with BYD. Dare to dream with BYD and the Commonwealth Games.
Next up, we'll be looking at whether Chelsea have got off lightly for their breaches of agent payment regulations.
It's an amazing story, actually. It's almost a forgotten man. This is about Mykhailo Mudryk, who has been allowed to come back to football immediately for Chelsea. So you'll remember that this is a man who had a 4-year ban handed down to him for breaching anti-doping rules. He's not played since November 2024 after what was described as an adverse finding of meldonium, which is a banned substance in his system. He appealed against that sentence to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who have today said that because he accepted breaking anti-doping rules, they have agreed that the time served already is enough of a punishment. So Mykhailo Mudryk is available to play for Chelsea with immediate effect.
Can he even still play football? Is he good enough? He's not played football for 3 years.
It's been nearly 2 years. Well, Chelsea have released quite a long statement today, obviously welcoming the decision. They've talked about what a difficult period of time it has been for Mykhailo Mudryk. And I think this is the important paragraph here in the statement. We welcome the acknowledgement that advances in the applicable scientific reporting standards for more reliable testing mean that had Misha's sample been analysed under today's technical requirements, it would not have been reported as a positive test and no anti-doping rule violation would have resulted. That is an important part of the context surrounding the agreed resolution and allows everyone involved to move forward.
You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, broadcaster and Liverpool fan Rickie Haywood-Williams, and I have alongside me broadcaster and Aston Villa superfan Mr. Dan Bardell. Okay, so today Chelsea effectively avoided sporting sanctions for breaching agent payment regulations. Lots to get through here. So Chelsea have been fined 10 million and given a suspended ban from registering new players for 2 transfer windows. We have Louis Beneventi, host of the Chelsea Echo podcast, on the line right now. How are you?
I'm not bad, mate. Thank you for having me. Dan, it's been a while. I haven't seen you for years.
Hello, mate. Good to see you. Okay?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Mikhailo Mudrik's back. Somehow avoided anything else. It's been a great day. Sun's out.
Sun's out. Mudrik's back. But listen, have Chelsea's self-reporting been taken into consideration to reach this punishment, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I look at the situation. Obviously, it was the Rowan Abramovich era, and then obviously Clear Lake Capital, Todd Bowley and his consortium have come in and they've gone, well, let's take a look at these books. Let's self-report it. They obviously had money set aside for fines. So they've kind of looked at this and gone, well, if we self-report, we'll probably get away with it a little bit more. And I mean, to be honest, that has been the case. Is it right? Because I know you're going to ask that. No, comparatively to other people. But I mean, that's not for us to make that decision. That's down to the FA and, how they handle those situations and should do in future with other people as well.
Well, some rival fans believe Chelsea cheated their way to success during the period in question. I think from about 2009 to what was it, 2022, maybe. That's a long old period. I think they won like 13 trophies in that time. So, they've had a good stint in that time.
Yeah. There's lots of other clubs that have cheated and done things as well, but they don't want to admit that. So it's absolutely fine. I take the rough with the smooth. It's not my problem. I've got the trophies on my cabinet. They haven't.
Chelsea beat us 8-0 in that time, so I'd like to see that result revoked based on this news that's come out. And can I also just say, it's a shame the suspended transfer ban wasn't a proper transfer ban, because then you might have stopped stealing our players and coaches as well.
Listen, you've got a great deal. You've got one of the best left wingers I've ever seen play for us in my lifetime, in Alejandro Garnacho. So you'll absolutely love him.
Unai will get him going. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Louis, will this ruling have any relevance, do you think, to the charges levelled against Man City?
I don't know, because I think the FA seems to be quite selective in how they do things. I always feel very sorry for Everton when they got their points deduction, because if you look at the situation, that was something where it was dealt with differently to us. It may do in terms of how Man City are dealt with. I think with that situation, there's so much to go through still, evidently, that it's going to be quite difficult to actually give you a definitive answer. However, the fact that we self-reported and they haven't, it will show how that looks in about, about 6 months they're looking at. They're talking about January, weren't they? So, realistically, I think Man City may face more charges and may face a different kettle of fish to us. But at the same time, I think the problem you've got for teams in the Big Six is the amount of eyes that they bring to the Premier League. And the fact that Man City have been so keen to fight it, I think there's probably going to be something that will come out of this, which I think football fans aren't going to be particularly happy with in the grand scheme of things. I can't see Man City being relegated, because I know people are talking about that. And being stripped of their titles, I don't see that happening either. So I think it's going to be quite anticlimactic, to be frank with you.
To be fair, it might take a while to self-report 115 charges. It might take a long time, so that's probably a reason why they haven't done it. Yeah. Do you think this is almost like setting a precedent that Chelsea, I don't want to say get away with it, because obviously there is a punishment, but do you think it almost sets the precedent for Manchester City?
I think it does. The fact that we've got 74 and we've kind of self-reported and gone, well, this is what we've got. The thing is, City are going to turn around and probably use that as leverage in the conversations. The precedent is set. But like I was saying, we've self-reported, they haven't. So I think they will face something harsher, but what that is, I couldn't tell you.
Well, listen, we've got our reporter Ben Jacobs in the wings. He's got the latest regarding Mikhailo Mudrik.
Haywood Mudrik, because he's back eligible to play football and train again with his teammates, and he will now join up with Chelsea on their pre-season tour. He's expected to arrive on Sunday and be in Hong Kong. Now, this is a complicated story, but essentially Mudrik is free to return to football. The FA have confirmed that a settlement has been reached. Mudrik still acknowledges anti-doping violations, but what has changed is that if the rules were now, instead of when he tested positive for the banned substance meldonium, there wouldn't have been enough of it in his system to cause a ban or an anti-doping violation. But he cannot be vindicated because he's bound by the rules at the time. So Mudryk has decided to acknowledge the charges, and his 4-year ban ends immediately, which means he can return to football. A huge breaking story there.
So absolutely massive news regarding Mikhailo Mudryk, the Chelsea player, the forgotten man, as it were. With a point to prove, could he be a star under Xabi Alonso, do you think?
I'm not sure. I think he's been out for such a long time, and I think the system that we're going to be playing, you know, he's going to need regular minutes. So where he fits into that, I don't know. He strikes me as a player who I think I could potentially see as like a Callum Hudson-Odoi-esque wing back, considering you've got Morgan Rogers and Cole Palmer that are going to probably be playing further up behind João Pedro. I really hope he does. I think the thing about Mikhailo Mudryk is you speak to Chelsea fans that sit in the stands. I think a lot of people just want to see him do well, because even with this situation, as Ben pointed out, the fact that he's basically been cleared because it's not a problem anymore because of the rules now, but in the past it would have been a problem. For me, that just makes that whole conversation about his ban a complete farce. Yes, we signed him as this young, exciting player from under Arsenal's noses, as this tricky winger. He faced a lot of issues. Obviously, you know, we can talk about the war in Ukraine. He's left his family. He's had to adapt to a new life. He's had the wrong people around him, which has caused him to get in the position he's in. But now, based off what we've seen on social media from him being off the field and what he's done, for me personally, look, he's someone who's worked really hard and someone who I think has been wronged. And I really hope he gets given the opportunity, whether that be in a Chelsea shirt or somewhere else where he can get regular minutes, can develop. And then, look, if he comes into the side, operates as maybe depth in that left wing back position, or if he goes out on loan, does really well, gets more minutes, and then comes back even stronger, you know, I'd be really happy to see that. He's somebody who I think can definitely have an impact on the team, but in what capacity? It's going to be interesting to see how he adapts and develops given the pre-season and, you know, the amount of time that he's had out.
I was going to ask you how you thought he might get on at Strasbourg, because I assume that's where he'll probably end up going.
I knew that was coming. Look, I think he'd do all right there. Why not? Go on. I'll slow to Strasbourg, down in France. Why not? Have a go.
Well, it remains to be seen whether Xabi Alonso is going to, you know, take to Mudryk. We'll see. Time will tell. But Xabi Alonso has become the club's permanent manager, signing a 4-year contract, transferred in Morgan Rogers. Apparently, he was like a big part of that transfer. Maxence Lacroix as well, Palestri. The list goes on. How are Chelsea looking ahead of the new season? And what other moves do you think they need to make in the transfer market?
I mean, from the one game we've seen, I've been very, very impressed with how we've actually gone from back to front very quickly. Yes, it wasn't exactly defensively resolute against Western Sydney Wanderers, but, you know, it's Western Sydney Wanderers and it's the first game of pre-season, so I'm not really looking into it too deeply. But for me, I think realistically, I'd probably like to see a left wing back come in or a left back come in. Obviously, Petravaria, we're still looking at him. I'd be a big fan of us maybe getting Lewis Hall back at Chelsea, especially with Eddie Howe. Now, obviously, parting company with Newcastle, probably over the amount of players they're selling. So I'd be very keen to see that happen potentially. And for me, I'd love to see maybe a defensive midfielder come in alongside Moises Caicedo. I think Enzo Fernandez isn't really someone that could occupy that space in a double pivot. So to see someone coming alongside Moises Caicedo, I think for me, that would be a very healthy window. So left wing back, centre midfielder, and I'll be happy.
It sounds easy when you put it like that. Listen, Louis, thank you so much for your time tonight, bro.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Nice one. Next up, we'll be discussing whether the Premier League still attracts the very best players.
Liverpool are set to place an opening bid for Bradley Barcola, but what PSG want and what Liverpool are willing to offer at the moment seems quite far away.
Yeah, there's a goal for valuation, but that's normal. PSG's starting position is £145 million. And my information is that in terms of the fixed fee, Liverpool are looking at roughly 80 million, maybe some add-ons on top. But that's the starting point. And knowing this is going to be a difficult negotiation because of PSG's starting position and the fact that they haven't signed Yan Diomande, Liverpool might need to be patient. And my expectation is it might run a similar course to Alexander Isak. And by that, I don't mean the player will agitate and go on strike. But what I do mean is with Alexander Isak, Liverpool placed what they thought was a fair offer early. When it was rejected, they waited until right towards the end of the window and the deal got done in the final hours. And you may note that Newcastle went from not for sale to 125 million, and somewhere in the middle, they were asking for 150 million about 3 weeks before the deal got done. So PSG's starting position, 145, very normal in deals for that to come down by 20 to 25 million. If Liverpool are prepared to go up by 10 or 15 million, suddenly the parties are not that far apart. So the first bid likely testing the water, and then we'll understand whether PSG are grandstanding or they genuinely believe that they can get over £20 million more than the deal that saw Morgan Rogers leave Aston Villa for Chelsea at 117 million.
Amen Corner, perhaps the most feared run of holes in golf. Each year it claims the tournament hopes of many, with balls hitting bunkers and water traps aplenty. But why is it so fearsome, and where did it get its name? Just the thoughts of holes 11, 12 and 13 at Augusta National gives the likes of Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth the shivers. McIlroy hit 3 over and Spieth hit 4 over in their final rounds to blow their hopes of a green jacket in 2011 and 2016 respectively. But did you know Amen Corner's name is inspired by a jazz song from 1933? American sports writer Herbert Warren Wint, on the left here, wrote about it in 1958, referencing the song shouted in that Amen Corner when describing the run. Hole 11 is a par 4 over 520 yards with a green guarded by a pond and bunkers to the front edge. 12, perhaps golf's most famous hole, is a par 3 over just 155 yards. The green's guarded by Rays Creek at the front, more bunkers and azalea bushes ready to punish the smallest error. Then there's the 13th that teases the hook shot over the trees. It's a dogleg par 5 over 545 yards that's inviting for big hitters who want to reach the green in 2. If you want to win the Masters, you have to keep your score down around Amen Corner. So who'll be the next to fall victim to golf's most famous and most daunting challenge?
You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, broadcaster Rickie Haywood-Williams. I'm a massive Liverpool fan, alongside a massive Villa fan, Mr. Dan Bardell. So next up, we're talking, does the Premier League attract top stars? Of the 5 most expensive incoming in the Premier League this summer, only one involves a player moving to the league for the first time. Jeremy Jacquet's 55 million, rising to 60 million move from Rennes to Liverpool is the most expensive new arrival to the division. So I think talkSPORT understands as well, PSG winger Bradley Barcola wants to join Liverpool, who are preparing an offer of up to 100 million. Real Madrid have reportedly told Vinicius Jr. to either accept the new contract offer on the table or the Brazilian could move to Arsenal. When was the last time, Dan, that a top player who was at the peak of their powers joined the Premier League?
It might sound a little bit stupid, but I do genuinely believe when Manchester City signed Haaland from Dortmund, I know he was only young, but it feels like he got to the peak of his powers pretty quickly and has stayed there ever since. I genuinely think that was a big signing for the.
Was he at his peak though? Because obviously he's. I reckon he's at his peak now, probably, or just about to enter his peak.
Yeah, in terms of age, I think if you look at his output, it's just never declined, has it? Wherever he's been, he scored the same amount of goals. And I think that was a big signing for the Premier League at the time, because every team in the world would have wanted him. You'd imagine Barcelona, Real Madrid, other English teams, they would have all wanted to sign him at the time. He went to Manchester City after an unbelievable spell at Dortmund and has obviously, as I say, never ever stopped scoring. But generally, you when you think of the star names, in my childhood and probably adulthood as well,
yeah,
a lot of them do just go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. They've been very good in Real Madrid in particular, like the South American market. They'll get the next big thing and they'll be a star, but then they'll become an absolute Galactico superstar when they're at Real Madrid. I don't think the Premier League has ever really cottoned on to that and really delved into the South American market. But I guess that ilk of player with the language and stuff, they always want to go to Spain. It's like a natural progression. There's been times when there's been a potential superstar like Jude Bellingham, for example, and he obviously went to Dortmund when he wasn't a superstar, coming from Birmingham, and then
was on the verge of going to Liverpool.
Yeah, he took the step to go to Madrid, as you would, because Madrid are the biggest team in the world. And I think Barcelona, Madrid, and even now probably, even though the French league is perceived as not being a strong league, PSG are now very good at getting the superstars in, aren't they? So I think there's three teams there that have got more pull than the English teams, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, it feels like that is just the direction of travel, isn't it? It's like, we get these players from whether it's like Europe or South America. They come to the Premier League, we build them up, and then they end up just going to Barcelona or they go to Real Madrid and they become a Galactico.
Yeah, look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, he makes himself one of the best footballers there's ever been at Manchester United. But then he goes to Real Madrid and it probably goes up another couple of levels there. And he was obviously toe-to-toe with Messi in La Liga, which was a brilliant time for football. I used to watch La Liga every weekend, didn't you, when it was Barcelona and Real Madrid in those days, Mourinho against Pep. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Speaking about that era of Mourinho at Madrid, I remember, we all remember when Ozil made the move from Madrid to Arsenal. Could that be an example? He was still at the top of his game, maybe?
He was, but was he outside the Real Madrid 11 at that point? It's like Barcola, like he's a big name, but he's probably not in PSG's best 11. It was quite weird, wasn't it, in the World Cup? Because for France, you felt like Barcola was maybe ahead of Doué, but for PSG, it feels like Doué's ahead of him. If Liverpool were now signing Kvaratskhelia, who I think is number one in his position,
I think he's
at least, or maybe number two or three in the world, if Liverpool were now going and getting him, I would say that's a superstar signing, whereas Barcola, I think, as good as he is, I think he sits just outside that level. And in all honesty, I know you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he's the right signing for the position you need to fill. But that's probably a conversation for a different segment.
We'll get to that in a bit. We'll get to that in a bit, Dan. But I don't know. For me, I just feel like, do you think the Premier League does it just come down to money? Is it just down to money? Can players, they leave the Premier League and they can go and get the big bucks at Real Madrid? There's that kind of old, the way that they do things. They wait till a player is about to end their contract and then they sign them for free.
Yeah,
and then they get a massive signing on bonus. That seems to be the playbook at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, Real Madrid have been unbelievable at that over the last 5 years. Got in some superb players for no money at all. I know obviously they'll be on big wages, but in terms of transfer fee, no transfer fee at all, and they've continued that this summer. I do think in terms of signing the superstars as well, I actually think the way Spain do their presidential elections, sometimes that's a factor, because a prospective president will be, well, if I get the role, I'm going to sign this player.
They offer the world, don't they? They literally offer the world.
It's happened loads of times over the years. If you think when Real Madrid used to sign like Beckham, Ronaldo and Michael Owen, all the players that they sign superstars. It's all based around what the president's going to come in and do.
Well, if memory serves me correctly, I think Beckham was initially offered by Manchester United to Barcelona. And the president had kind of said to the Barcelona fans that, I've got David Beckham. And Beckham was like, no, mate, I want to go to Real Madrid. So it is, I hear what you're saying about the president's offering the world. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we need to stop. The Premier League needs to stop that kind of direction of travel of all of our stars going to La Liga and going to those top two teams.
It's hard though, isn't it? Because I do, as much as I love the Premier League, and obviously I'm English, like Real Madrid and Barcelona they are the greatest. They are the two biggest teams, aren't they? I don't think you can really argue with it, and it's a dream for a lot of players to go and play there. That's why Jude Bellingham went there when he did. That's why Trent Alexander-Arnold has left his boyhood team to go and play there, because he dreams of pulling on the white of Real Madrid. I don't think it's going to happen. I agree with. I think Rory said it a few days ago on talkSPORT. If Arsenal sign Vinny Jr., I think that's the biggest signing in Premier League history, because that's not been done. I don't think Arsenal have gone and got a premium player, or a Premier League team's gone and got an absolute premium player from Real Madrid or Barcelona. They might have got players who play for them who, as I said, like Ozil, were outside the 11 at that time. But to go and pick like someone who's in contention for the Ballon d'Or every year, that would be huge. And from an Arsenal perspective as well, 5 years ago, them being able to do that kind of thing was completely unthinkable. So fair play to them for putting themselves in that place to even be in the discussion.
Well, Rory Jennings was on Drive and believes the division would never have had a bigger signing than Vinicius Jr.
It'd be massive, absolutely massive for the Premier League. I totally agree with you. But I think it's you have to look at it through the lens of Arsenal. You have to look at what this means for Arsenal. They're behaving exactly as they should. When you are champions, you come with being champions of England comes with the power. It comes with the opportunity, and they're making the most of it. I think this probably, if this happens, Vinicius Jr. landing at Arsenal are already Premier League champions. They were Champions League finalists. They were Champions League semi-finalists last year. You think about the momentum of Arsenal. If he lands at Arsenal and is the missing piece to them winning a European Cup, it immediately becomes money well spent. It probably goes down, off the top of my head here, biggest signing in Premier League history?
Rory Jennings there. I think this is the biggest red herring in history in terms of like transfers, because I feel like Vinicius Jr. has been trying to get a new contract at Real Madrid for the last couple of years. In that time, they've signed Mbappe. Mbappe's on incredible money, and he obviously is going to want parity with that, or somewhere close. And I think he's using the Premier League as a bit of a bargaining chip to try and up the ante on his money, to try and get a bigger contract. What do you reckon?
Surely, though, despite the Arsenal interest, surely he's going to get a big contract anyway, because they're not going to let him run down his contract and go for a free. I think they've said it's quite well known that if he doesn't sign a contract this summer, they will look to sell him, and it would still be an incredible amount of money. Although I think it's less than PSG want for Bradley Barcola. I think everything points to the fact that he will sign a new contract, doesn't it? I don't think it's a red herring, though. I really, really don't, because there's a blatant vacancy in the Arsenal team in that position.
Oh, I think Arsenal want him.
Arsenal have...
I think his team are using Arsenal as a pawn in the whole thing.
But do you not think if let's say he can't agree terms with Real Madrid, where else would he go?
Yeah, way too early for him to go to Saudi. That's unheard of. There's
been links before, hasn't there?
There has been links, yeah.
He wouldn't go there.
Let's hope not. He's too good a talent to go there at this stage of his career. But potentially departing the league is Rodri, former Ballon d'Or winner, previous Ballon d'Or winner, with Real Madrid reportedly expected to make an offer for the Manchester City midfielder. Is that a good look for the Premier League? Have we seen the best of Rodri already? Have we had the best of him?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, from a Manchester City perspective, they've had him in his prime. During his prime, he scored the winner in a Champions League final. He's been in countless title-winning teams. He's been in the team that won the treble. Unbelievable footballer. There's been some great players in that kind of sixth position over the years, but I think he's definitely in the discussion for being one of the best ever, probably not just in the Premier League, but in the world. I genuinely believe that Rodri is that good. I think since he's come back from injury, he hasn't quite been the same, although he did do a good impression of the player that we knew before in the World Cup, because he was absolutely phenomenal.
Well, Golden Ball winner.
Spain, he won the player of the tournament, so it looks like he's coming back to his best. But he's 30 now, year left on his contract. It's probably, like I said earlier, for him, someone who is Spanish, he'll have dreamt of playing for Real Madrid. Like, at this stage of his career, and I will say about Manchester City as well, when a player comes towards the end and they've been a good servant, they've achieved a lot with the club, Manchester City do usually kind of wave them off, and they don't ask for an over-exuberant transfer fee. They usually say, maybe sometimes, can you give us another year? Or in Bernardo Silva's case, it felt like it happened every single year. Can you give us another year? Can you give us another year? And he's finally departed this summer. Their team's kind of breaking up anyway. So is it the natural breaking point for Rodri to go and Manchester City get a decent fee for him, although it probably in the modern day does look like a little bit on the low side. I would say it's fair with 12 months left on his contract. He gets to go and play for Mourinho at Real Madrid, and Manchester City probably have £200 million players replace him.
It does feel like a passing of the baton between Rodri and obviously Elliot Anderson that's just been bought by Manchester City. Can Elliot Anderson live up to the task? I think big boots to fill, right?
Yeah, I think he can, because I do genuinely believe he's a top midfield player, and in a World Cup where I thought Declan Rice, for reasons that are maybe beyond his control with fitness, didn't show his best self. Yeah. I actually thought Elliot Anderson stepped up and performed really well throughout the whole tournament. I thought he was really good. The price is obviously high for him, and it looks like they're going to sign Buadi as well.
He looks like a proper player.
They both are brilliant footballers, but you're asking them to step into the shoes of two bona fide Premier League legends, two of the best midfielders ever to have played in the Premier League in Rodri and Bernardo Silva. That is a huge ask at a time when Manchester City are in flux as well, with a trip into the unknown, with a new manager. I know Maresca's been there before in a coaching capacity, but this is completely uncharted waters for Manchester City with Pep leaving. He's been there for 10 years. Like, this all coming together at the same time. I understand why it's happening in that way, but I think it's a huge ask for them to go on and achieve the things that they have been achieving straight away. I think it'll take time.
Interesting stuff. So what are we saying then? Is it a bad reflection on the division that the World Cup Golden Ball winner seemingly wants to depart for La Liga?
No, I think that's looking at it in a way too a simplistic way for me. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's the circumstances have all aligned where it's happening at this time, with the player having a certain want, the contract being in a certain place, and Jose Mourinho going into Real Madrid and identifying that Rodri's a player that would really help him. I think it's just a case of the stars aligning, and I don't think anyone really loses in that situation.
Got a text there, 03717 223344 from Oliver Richards. Says, great chat as always, guys. Love the show. Real Madrid is the biggest draw in the world and in world football for all players. And I'm a United fan saying that. Barca is next, and after that it's Man United. Then the London clubs in the Premier League. The money in the Premier League is massive, but the lifestyle is a huge draw for players that want to go to Spain. Rainy UK or gorgeous sunny Spain? Question mark.
I mean, for me, I'd always pick Birmingham over everything. If I was playing for Villa, I wouldn't be tempted by Real Madrid at all. But yeah, it's completely fair, isn't it? I mean, we've even seen recently with Tonali at Newcastle, like, he's playing for a team in the Premier League, a team that's probably been better than Tottenham over the last few years, but the draw of London and having that lifestyle and living there is apparent, and that's one of the main pulls of why he's wanting to go to Tottenham. I guess it's all relative. I guess there's a ladder, isn't there, with these things?
Yeah. Got another one here from Dan on text. It says, when did a Premier League team sign a player from Spain who they didn't want to sell? Answer is never. Ozil was sold because Madrid wanted to sell, and if Haaland had the choice when he signed between City and Madrid, he would have picked Madrid. Premier League might be now a great money, but it will never have the prestige of Madrid or Barcelona. You agree with that?
I think I agree with the prestige point, but I probably don't agree with the Haaland point, because I think he was available for such a low fee. I would imagine absolutely all the top clubs would have been in for him at that time, and he probably knows he's going to go to Madrid at some point in his career. Of course he does. I think maybe his situation was different because of his dad and where his dad has played his football. I imagine he wanted to go and follow in his father's footsteps, so that would have had something to do with it. But I agree with the wider point. I just think the prestige of Barcelona and Real Madrid is like nothing else.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, next we'll continue with our discussion on Rodri after his manager discussed his future earlier today. Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Rickie Haywood-Williams, and alongside me, Aston Villa fan Dan Bardell. So the Scottish Premiership season gets underway tonight with Dundee hosting Rangers from 8 p.m. Reporting for talkSPORT is John Dunn, and he's got a reminder of the team news.
Game number 1 of the Scottish Premiership, and for Derek McInnes as the new Rangers boss. 5 years he was a Gers player. Last season he took Hearts within a whisker of winning the league title and ending 40 years plus of Old Firm dominance. Rangers finishing the season in 3rd. McInnes looking to return Rangers to title winners. 8 new recruits through the door, including Lawrence Shankland and Cammy Devlin. They followed McInnes from Edinburgh. They both start tonight. Shankland as captain. Ivor Pandor starts in goal after a move from newly promoted Hull. And Ben Godfrey, on loan from Atalanta, makes a debut in defence. McInnes was also a player at Dundee United for 3 years. The Tangerines are already 4 games into their new season, winning 3 of those in the League Cup group stage. New signing, Lachlan Rose, has scored 3 goals already since arriving from Newcastle Jets in Australia. Boss Jim Goodwin into double figures in terms of new players, 6 of them starting tonight. Jack Walton, Joshua Rawlins, Michael Forbes, Jesse Randall, Dylan Tate, as well as Rose, who is starting up front. At a sold-out Tannadice, it is Dundee United and Rangers.
So it feels like only yesterday Celtic were being crowned champions in dramatic style, John. What do Rangers need to do this season to become the #1 team in Scotland, do you think?
Well, big improvements from last season. McInnes felt that they were playing as individuals, not as a team, and what he wants to do is bring that team ethic that he had at Hearts into Rangers. Not normally a fan of that, knows the club, but McInnes, a Rangers fan, a former Rangers player, he knows the pressures around Rangers and the expectations that are absolutely huge, particularly after such a disappointing season last campaign. It started under Russell Martin, it ended with Danny Röhl. At no stage were they really title contenders. They threatened at one point, but Hearts and Celtic were always the ones out in front. But McInnes is still hurting from Hearts losing the title on that dramatic final day at Celtic Park.
Great stuff there. John Dunn reporting on Dundee United versus Rangers this evening on talkSPORT. All right, so Manchester City, Enzo Maresca, new man in charge. How do you think he's going to do this season, Dan?
I think the Premier League's in a little bit of a weird place this season where I think because of the financials, I actually think it's the first season for a while where the so-called big 6 could be the top 6 because everyone is throwing cash at it.
Yeah, they are.
It feels like, look at what Tottenham and Chelsea are doing after bad seasons in the Premier League. Like,
it's exciting to see, though. I quite like it.
I'm not that excited about it, but I expect that they'll be a lot better. But pretty much every team's got a new manager. Yeah. Which is again unprecedented in Premier League terms. Yeah, obviously Liverpool have got Iraola. Manchester United technically have a new manager in Carrick. The most stable team is the reigning champions in Arsenal because obviously Arteta's been there for the duration that he's been at the helm for. So I think it's a really funny season to try and predict right now, particularly before the end of the transfer window when we don't know what everyone's going to have done. I think Arsenal obviously start as favourites, and then after that, in all honesty, it genuinely could be any of them. I really think that. Manchester United, actually, with Carrick, are probably the second most stable club. And Manchester United and the word stable haven't been used together for 10 years, have they? It's been a long time since they felt like that. Maresca's got a really, really difficult job because we've had difficult follow-ons in the Premier League previously. If you think of Arsene Wenger and Alex Ferguson, this really is right up there, isn't it, with what Pep's achieved in the game, the way he's changed football in this country, as well, all the trophies that Manchester City have won. So following him is no mean feat.
You never really want to be the guy after the guy, right?
No, Unai Emery found that at Arsenal, didn't he? When he followed, it's really, really difficult. They've gone with what they know to an extent because Maresca's been at the club before. I don't know whether when he was there that was always the plan. He's obviously gone to Leicester, got them up, left straight away. Had a decent spell with Chelsea. It was certainly in their blue coat history. Their better time was with Maresca at the helm. I don't think many Chelsea fans would argue with that. But it's just completely unknown. And unfortunately for him, I think when you take a big job like Manchester City, you maybe need a few of the established faces in the dressing room and it feels like a lot of them have departed. If you were to name the 11 from when Manchester City won the treble, I don't know it off the top of my head, but maybe 3 or 4 are still there. So it's been a massive sea change for Manchester City over the last couple of seasons. And actually during those last couple of seasons as well, they've struggled. Now, you could argue that some of that is to do with the fact that Rodri wasn't really available for the one season at all with a bad injury, and he struggled to get into the team in the second half of the second season due to injury as well. But Manchester City are coming off the back of 2 pretty porous seasons. I know they won the domestic cups last season.
Poor by their standards. Let's put it into perspective.
Yeah, they haven't won a league for 2 seasons, though, which I can't imagine ever happened before under Pep.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously City and Maresca will be hoping that their talisman, Rodri, will sign the new contract, obviously following the departures of Pep Guardiola, leaders in the dressing room like Bernardo Silva, who's gone to Real Madrid. John Stones, like we saw, has gone to Inter Milan today. Other experienced players like Manuel Akanji to Inter as well. Nathan Ake. Like, these are all players that, you know, some of them were kind of fringe players in terms of like Nathan Ake at times. And, you know, players like that, they really do make up the squad. They do really help the squad. They bolster the squad. But you've got people like Elliot Anderson coming in, notable signing, joining from Nottingham Forest, 116 million at the start. How do you think that new situation will gel together? Because obviously they've lost a lot of stalwart players.
Yeah, and it's in the core of your team as well. If they lose Rodri and Bernardo Silva in the same summer, I imagine that wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
At the start of the transfer window, I don't think, like people say, Elliot Anderson's Rodri's replacement. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think they bought Elliot Anderson thinking he's going to replace Rodri.
Yeah.
I think they bought him thinking he's going to play alongside Rodri for a season, and then at the end of his contract maybe he departs. Because again, Manchester City are quite adept at letting contracts run down and waving players off. They've done that loads of times.
Their signings normally do overlap, don't they? It's not like one in, one out.
Yeah. They've lost some good players over the last 2 years, but they've lost characters. They've lost leaders. I look at that Manchester City team now, and it's not full of the leaders that it was. They haven't got the leader at the top. So I do think this season's going to be really, really tough for them. Now, a tough season for Man City is probably still finishing in the top 5, top 4, and winning a domestic cup and getting in the Champions League, which most teams would snap your hand off. But
you say that, like, think about, obviously they had their goalkeeper that was there for a really long time. They've now got Donnarumma. He's a leader. He's been around for a long time. He's won, you know, the biggest honours. He looks like a leader. Erling Haaland looks like he's grown into his stature. Like you see him with his team at the World Cup, and he looks like he's, you know, leading the line for them. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. They need the best version of Foden back. He's still so young, but they haven't had the best version of Foden for a couple of seasons now, have they? They could do with him coming back into form. They need Ruben Dias to stay fit. You mentioned like some of the defenders that have left over the last couple of years. A lot of experience gone. Obviously, Gahey came in and did well there and over the second half of the season. But just because like someone like John Stones, for example, just because they've not maybe played a lot of games last season, which he didn't, they're still in the building every day. They're still a big part of that dressing room. They're still a massive part of the culture, the winning culture that breeds in that football club. And they're sometimes the things that are actually a little bit more difficult to replace.
Yeah, and that's the conversation like around Jordan Henderson. People like, you know, taking Jordan Henderson to the World Cup, you know, Chelsea potentially buying Jordan Henderson for, you know, that kind of, you know, that impetus and that kind of like that voice in the dressing room that drives people on. A lot of people laugh at it, but it is kind of invaluable.
It's a thing, isn't it? Like, we're going to talk about Newcastle a little bit later on, and they've lost big players, but they've also lost players like Trippier who are leaders and an integral part of that dressing room. And that stuff, as I say, is really, really difficult to replace. You can't really replace it because they can't go through the journey that player's been on. So Manchester City are in a flux, but I think actually might be a good thing for them. It feels like many of the top teams are in a flux right now.
Yeah, it does. Many of the top teams have got a lot of change in their squads, in their hierarchy. Shout out to Dan on text right now. He says, if any of the new managers of the Big Six were to win the league, who would you put your money on?
That's a great question. Probably Maresca.
Really?
Just because it's City. I think it's genuinely tight.
It's really tight.
I actually don't think any of them will.
I always think when you got a new manager, 2 years. You've got 2 years like before anything really good can happen. Obviously, there are exceptions to that. But as a Liverpool fan, you know, since, you know, day dot for me. I've seen so many managers over the years. Liverpool went for a torrid time, like in the late 90s, early noughties, in terms of like manager turnover and not falling short of like the great Manchester United teams. And I always thought whenever we change manager, it was always going to be about 2 years before he could actually implement his style, his team, get the players in that he wants. So it feels like 2 years is like kind of like that benchmark, unfortunately.
Well, it wasn't for Arne Slot, was it?
It wasn't for Arne Slot, but then he was out the year after.
I was going to say, I bet he wished he'd walked away after his first year, to be fair.
At the time with Arne Slot, I remember everyone saying, like he's won it with Klopp's team. And I was like, no, Klopp couldn't even win it with that team.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I think that is what happened. I think he did win it with Klopp's team. He did make a few tweaks, but ultimately it was Jurgen Klopp's team. Do you know what I mean? And then when he started to really imprint his personality onto that squad and onto that team, and he did a lot of things that just didn't really work out, we know how it ended up.
Yeah. They maybe went too much the other way the summer after when they won the league, didn't they? Maybe did a little bit too much and ripped it up too soon. Chelsea, they're an interesting one for me. Because they're miles off it last season.
Yeah.
They finished 10th.
10th, yeah.
Now it looks like they're trying to buy players and coaching staff off all the teams that finished above them to try and supplement their squad, like Brighton. Have come for Villa, obviously, with a coach and with a player as well. But they've made a really good managerial appointment.
Once they made that appointment of Xabi Alonso, I was like, okay, here we go. Chelsea are back. Chelsea are definitely back.
I would have thought, there's no way he goes there. There's no way he enters that basket case of a football club saying what's gone before. Like, I just would have thought he'd have been too savvy to take the job.
Yeah.
But, well, we now know what it is. But obviously something has changed to make him accept that job. And we're seeing now that for the first time, a manager actually under Bluco has a little bit of a say. They're getting in top players. They're not just making up the numbers here, but they're also rectifying wrongs of the past. Now, maybe they're going a little bit too far the other way now with Henderson and Welbeck, but there'll be those people in the dressing room that I was talking about earlier. I don't expect that they'll probably play 30 games between them.
No,
I wouldn't think. But they'll be in that dressing room driving standards. And then when you're making signings like Morgan Rogers, who I actually think will do really well, linking up with Cole Palmer and João Pedro, I think that's a really fluid front line. Probably someone else high and wide on the right as well. Chelsea, with no Europe, we've seen it before. If a team doesn't have Europe, they can have a good season. Manchester United gave everyone a head start last season with Amorim.
One game a week.
And they still finished third as soon as Carrick came in. So it doesn't take a lot to turn the screw. It really doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. We shall see how that pans out for Chelsea and Xabi Alonso. Right, next up, we'll be looking at what has been a turbulent week for Newcastle.
I mean, I wake up every morning now feeling so lucky that Unai Emery's still there.
Yeah.
Because people laugh about these FSR, whatever they're called, financial fair play rules. They're a joke. Look at Aston Villa, right? Finish in the top four, win the Europa League, and then your best player, Morgan Rogers, leaves. Why can't Aston Villa keep hold of their best players and then say, we're going to get to spend 150 mil like Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. And then why can't we go and challenge for the title? These rules, they're there to keep the so-called top six there.
Yeah.
And this season coming, the so-called top six, they call it, will finish in the top six. I'm sure of it.
Gab,
Aston Villa, with what they're able to bring in, I'm going to be able to challenge.
Gab, I've had a conversation with you.
This time last year, that Unai Emery, this time next year,
Yeah.
we'll be lucky to have Unai Emery as the manager.
Gab,
because it's great on every manager.
Gab, I've had a conversation with you before, and I've said that if a big club like Manchester United comes in for your manager or players, they'll leave. And you're like, no, that would never happen. How's Youri Tielemans working out for you?
Yeah, but that's a release clause, isn't it? That's a stupid release clause of 35 million.
Could have stayed.
No, I agree. I don't blame him. He's 29. He's won. He scored a great goal in the final Europa League. Manchester United are a bigger club than Aston Villa. I understand why players would leave Aston Villa. But what I'm saying, Andy, is how, if it's Everton in a few years, if it's Sunderland, whoever it is that wants to try and break into that top four.
Life after football. For a lot of players, it means going into punditry. Some turn to coaching or working in the game in other ways. But what about the rest? some former footballers turn their sights away from the game, and there are a few big surprises. First up, from rainbow flicks to pancake flips. Ex-Chelsea and Southampton defender Ken Monku switched up his footballing career to buy a Dutch pancake house. He bought out the shop, which had been his favourite pancake spot as a child, and before long he was mixing the batter and getting behind the stove. Next, Everton legend Thomas Gravesen swapped out the high stakes of the Premier League for those of the poker room. He made over 150 appearances for the Toffees and won the Scottish Premier League with Celtic. Turned out the Danish international was pretty darn good at poker. He racked up a reported £100 million from his Las Vegas adventures. Remember former Chelsea goalkeeper Petr Cech? Turns out football nets weren't the only goals he was pretty handy in front of. After retirement, he became a goaltender in ice hockey. Same skills, very different surface. And he even won a Division 2 title with Guildford Phoenix. For ex-Liverpool centre-back Daniel Agger, it wasn't just fancy footwork that was in his blood. He was also pretty good with his hands. The Denmark international turned to tattoo artistry after he hung up his boots. He'd qualified as a skin artist while at Anfield, and he then became the co-owner of his own tattoo company as well. It's not all glamour for ex-pros, though. 1966 World Cup winner Ray Wilson set up a very different kind of business. He became an undertaker after he retired. Finally, not many people can say they've won both a World Cup and starred in an Oscar-winning film. In fact, there's only one person in the entire world who can say that. Frank Leboeuf, the former Chelsea defender, was part of the 1998 France squad who won the World Cup. He ended up marking Brazil's Ronaldo in the final and helped his side to a 3-0 win. But Leboeuf had already begun acting on the side while he was playing football, and his biggest role came some years after his retirement when he landed the part of a doctor in the Stephen Hawking biopic The Theory of Everything.
I embrace the career of acting, so I want to learn more. So seeing lots of movies is a part of my job.
To be honest, with all the dramatic diving in the game these days, there's probably tons of ex-pros who've got the acting skills to make it in Hollywood.
Welcome back to the Transfer Insiders with me, Rickie Haywood-Williams and Dan Bardell. So, turbulent week for Newcastle United, Dan. It's been absolutely crazy, isn't it? It was confirmed at 4:25 p.m. this evening that Eddie Howe has departed Newcastle United. Further understood that Howe communicated his decision 2 weeks ago and waited until the club had found a successor. The new man in charge will reportedly be current Al Hilal boss Matthias Yassel, a 38-year-old from Germany. Now, this is a strange one, isn't it? Like it was like such a surprise when I heard this.
Yeah, just because it doesn't feel like a natural breaking point to leave this soon before the new season starts, with the new season being 3 weeks away. I think it is. It felt like if there was going to be a breaking point, it was going to be at the end of last season, where it sounds like all the higher-ups at Newcastle and the manager, they all met up, knew that the season hadn't been good enough, 12th was unacceptable, but they were going to try and go again and re-galvanise the squad. Now, something fundamentally has changed over the last few weeks, whether it's that Eddie Howe's just realised, I can't keep going here, I don't think I can make this team competitive with the players that we've lost. Maybe Bruno Guimaraes was someone that he thought was going to stay, and him leaving has been the straw that's broke the camel's back. But it certainly feels right now a football club that's not aligned, a football club that, despite having some success, qualifying for the Champions League twice, winning a trophy after so long without one, like Eddie Howe's had some tremendous times at Newcastle and will be a hero there forever. It feels like a football club that, despite that success, instead of kicking on, and there's loads of reasons for this, but instead of kicking on, they've ended up going further away from their actual end goal. And
they've definitely regressed, haven't they?
It's a strange time to be a Newcastle fan. And I said this before Eddie Howe left. I don't think it would take much now for Newcastle to have a season like Tottenham have over the last couple of years. I can genuinely see it being that bad. Now, the new manager could come in and he could be the next big thing, but he could come in and Newcastle regress even more, and it'd be really difficult, and it turn a little bit toxic because the fans have been sold a dream to an extent as well, and they've tasted success now. It feels like the owners have backed away.
The owners, they came out and said, didn't they, a few times, we should be like challenging for the title like in 5 years' time and things like that, and putting that hope on the table. They say it's the hope that kills you, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. If you're saying those things, you can't then 4 years before your proposed goal of winning everything or winning the league, whatever it is they said, you can't be selling all your star players and replacing them with young, talented players but unproven players. Like, there's a bit missing in the middle there, isn't there? And that's why I think they might struggle, because they seem to be going too far the way of getting young prospects in. And I think it's because of the next level up of player. They've been burnt publicly so many times now. I actually don't think that place has been the same since Amanda Staveley left. She seemed to be the person that knitted it all together, that she could talk up, she could talk down, she was good with the fans. Like, I felt like she had the Newcastle in her heart as well. Since she's left, something seems to have dramatically changed for me.
Yeah, I think back to the transfer of Alexander Isak, that absolute saga that happened that summer when he went to Liverpool, went on strike, as we all know, and it just feels that since then, they've been on a bit of a slippery slope. Even the situation with Hugo Ekitike as well. It feels like the club were embarrassed a little bit in the transfer market, and their reputation doesn't seem to hold much weight in the transfer market anymore, because they seem to be getting gazumped a lot at the moment.
You could make an 11 of players they've missed out on, where the clubs have come in and stole them from under their nose. At this point, every time Newcastle are linked with a player, I just assume they're going to go to Liverpool. That's just the way it's been. Even my team have managed to
I'll take Bruno.
Take a player. Yeah, my team's managed to take a player from them this summer who was set to move there, because we had the carrot of Champions League football, and that's the thing as well, that they're not even in Europe. So not only have they've not regressed a little bit, they've gone really far back from where they were this time 12 months ago. They just won a trophy. Yeah. You're back in the Champions League. You're thinking that you're going to take the next step. I don't think many Newcastle fans would have seen the season coming that they had of finishing 12th.
So there's a growing expectation that their captain, Bruno Guimaraes, will leave for Arsenal this summer, which is a massive thing, simply because he's one of the players that has really bought into the culture up at Newcastle United, and he considers himself one of the tunes of Magpie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that he's going, that's got to be a massive blow to the fan base as well.
It was the first transfer window, wasn't it, when Eddie Howe was at the helm after the takeover? They bought Trippier, Dan Burn, Bruno Guimaraes, and there've been some other players that they bought that I've forgotten about as well. But there's a chance now that the manager that did that's not going to be there. Trippier's not going to be there. Bruno Guimaraes isn't going to be there. Like, him and Trippier, the two leaders of this team, they're the heartbeat of the side, the leaders in that dressing room. Like, Newcastle, I look at their squad now and I think it's devoid of leaders. It's a little bit lopsided. I think they're missing players in a few positions. Some of the players that they have bought, when the manager's not blameless, let me just say that. I think the Newcastle fans, it's really important to say that as much as they respect him and love what he's done, I think they can look at it logically and say he's made mistakes as well. Like,
that's why
there's been mistakes everywhere. That's the problem. And ultimately, when that happens, the people that get hurt are the fans.
Yeah, Sandro Tonali gone to Tottenham for 100 million. Anthony Gordon, 70 million to Barcelona, like you mentioned before. Kieran Trippier, free to Wolves. Where do they go from here? I think they're reportedly closing in on signing the goalkeeper Lucas Horniak from Braga for 30 million euros. It just feels a bit underwhelming. It feels like they're losing quality and they're not able to replace it, which ultimately means they're going to tumble down the table.
Yeah, they needed a new goalkeeper. Like, Nick Pope's needed replacing for 12 months, if I'm being kind. But you're replacing him with someone again who's unproven. Someone who I think's got 2 years' experience at the highest level of Portugal. I think he's had 2 seasons with his team. So you're not getting a sure thing. Maybe this is one of the reasons they've gone with the manager. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about him until yesterday, because the teams he's managed aren't really leagues that I follow. He strikes me as the kind of appointment that if Brighton or Bournemouth or Brentford make it, you look at it and think, there's probably been some data that's gone into that. They'll have these shortlists. They're really good at recruitment. They're really good at recruiting staff. Like, you maybe give it a chance and understand it. Maybe a little bit lazy from my perspective, but you look at where he's come from and the links, obviously, with the owners, and think, Have they got him because they believe that genuinely he's the next big thing, and they look at what he did at Salzburg and think he can get a young team together and he can mould something and make something happen?
Yeah.
Or have they got him because they know him from the Saudi Arabia links? I don't know, but it's an intriguing appointment. But I know there's no sure things in football, but it feels quite away from being a sure thing to me.
Well, the Daily Mail's chief football reporter Craig Hope was on breakfast and outlined why Matthias Jassel will be a good appointment.
This is a big rebuild at Newcastle. This is a new look Newcastle. If you rewind back to that team who won the Champions League, the team who won the Carabao Cup 2 years ago, and it had a lot of stars in their prime there. Bruno Guimaraes, Alexander Isak, Joe Linton, Sandro Tonali, Anthony Gordon. We thought that team was ready for takeoff. The next step would be challenging for the Premier League, the Champions League. That's gone. That team won't exist for another 5 or 10 years at least now at Newcastle. This is a total reboot. Look at the ages of the 4 players they've brought in. 3 20-year-olds, 1 18-year-old. I think this needed a new manager. It needed a young manager with fresh ideas. This isn't putting down Eddie Howe in any way whatsoever. We'll get onto that in just a moment. But it probably needed someone new and young to come in and lead that with a little bit more patience among supporters. And to that end, Jassel probably does fit the bill.
So the general consensus is that Jassel is worthy of replacing Eddie Howe. Has that created a more positive feeling around the change, do you think?
It sounded to me like Craig was trying to convince himself, as much as he was trying to convince the listeners, in all honesty. I don't know how it can be looked at like that. I don't think you can look at what's happened at Newcastle over the last week, over the last month, over the last year, and dress it up as a positive. And I know a few Newcastle fans and have worked with one today. They're worried about the future of their football club. It's not feeling like a good place to be. It's not feeling like a club that's trending in the right direction. And unfortunately for Newcastle as well, and I'm well versed in this from being a Villa fan, you cannot afford to make mistakes, and you definitely cannot afford to make mistakes in the transfer market, because if you do, you can't just go and pick up the pieces like a Chelsea or a Tottenham and go and throw a load more money at it. You'll be punished. You'll be set back. And unfortunately for them, and this is where it feeds into Howe again, who was in charge of recruitment 12 months ago, they have made an awful lot of bad signings that don't fit and haven't done well, unfortunately.
So whether Jassel was a good manager or not, will he be seriously up against it if Bruno follows Sandro Tonali, Anthony Gordon out of the club?
I mean, the best piece of news that's come out of Newcastle so far this summer probably is that Harvey Barnes has signed a new contract. and I wouldn't say that's massively, like, it's not groundbreaking news, is it? Like, Newcastle fans will think, okay, brilliant, like, we keep a player.
Yeah.
But he's not one of their big names. He's not been one of their stars.
He's not one of their big names, but he's had injuries. I also think we've got to take that.
I don't think he's a bad player.
No, he's a good player. Good player. Scores goals. You know, he's positive. He's quick. He's direct. But I get what you're saying. He's not an absolute star yet.
There's holes in that team now.
Yeah.
There's holes in that squad. There's voids in leadership. I think there's a lot of. I'm not convinced by the sporting director. In all honesty, people look at his body of work and speak about his time at Rangers, which fair enough. I think they went unbeaten under Steven Gerrard and won the league for the first time in a long time. Forest, I mean, the hit rate he's probably got there, I imagine it's mixed because they signed so many players. Like, some players there are going to be good signings when you sign 100 players. Like, that's just the way it works. He's got to be given time, of course he has, and that's probably another problem at Newcastle. Is there's been a lot of upheaval at boardroom level. People who know the club well, who've worked there when things have gone well, have left. It just feels like there's a lot of stuff happening at Newcastle at the same time, and I think we've seen this kind of dance at big teams before, and I honestly think this season could be a real struggle. I don't want it to be for them because I like Newcastle, I like their fans. As I say, my team's gone through a lot of the similar things to them over the last few years, but I can't see a world where they don't struggle this season.
I think back to when that announcement was made that they were being taken over, like, what was it, 5-6 years ago, and just the jubilation up at St James's Park, and now you come to this season and it's just a completely different story, isn't it?
Is what's happening now nearer to the Mike Ashley / Steve Bruce time, or is it nearer to the successful time where you win in the trophy and qualifying for the Champions League?
That's a good point.
I think it's closer to where they were before the takeover, and the rules don't help. The rules were probably put in place because of Newcastle. Let's face it.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing for them, I guess.
Do you feel though, because of those rules potentially, that Newcastle's Saudi Arabian owners maybe have lost interest in the project, and they're maybe thinking, look, we can't work around this, so, you know, our hands are tied, basically?
it's a confusing time because they've obviously got money, but they can't recruit. But I was listening to a podcast earlier about this. If you invest in the infrastructure in the training ground, which I'm sure they've been promising to do the training ground for a long time, they've still got quite a basic training facility from what I know. Why hasn't the money been ploughed in to that realm of Newcastle, that side of things? Like, why is the stadium not been improved? They've talked about a new stadium, haven't they, ever since they've arrived, but I don't think that's any further forward. Forgive me, Newcastle fans, if I'm wrong about that, but I don't think either of those things have really moved in the time since PIF have taken over. So there's talk of like them having to get investors in to do the training ground. Like, this stuff doesn't make sense because they've got all the money in the world and that stuff doesn't count towards PSR/SCR. There's just a lot of things at Newcastle that don't make sense.
Yeah, uncertain times ahead for Newcastle United, but we shall see how it all pans out across the season. Right, listen, what is the latest in the Scottish Premiership between Dundee United and Rangers? Here's John Dunn.
19 minutes gone, Dundee United 0, Rangers 0 at a sunny, sold-out Tannadice. Frantic start, as you would expect, for the first Premiership game of the season. Rangers probably settled into things the better. Derek McInnes' first game as Rangers manager. He brought Lawrence Shankland and Cammy Devlin along with him from Hearts, 2 of 8 new signings. They both start 3 minutes in. Shankland with a chance, 20 goals last season. This one a quick thinking backheel from a Dediri cross from the right, but it needed debutant goalkeeper in the Dundee United goal, Jack Walton, to turn that one around the post. From the resulting corner, it came out to Devlin. His shot was just wide. Dundee United not really threatened, but a moment ago, Lachlan Rose, who had scored 3 goals in 4 League Cup games for Dundee United, was sent clear. It needed a great sliding challenge by Dujon Sterling just inside the penalty area. 20 minutes gone, all square. Dundee United 0, Rangers 0.
And what about the latest from the Commonwealth Games? Here's our reporter, Georgie Heath.
Yeah, there were medals on offer in the cycling, and England bagging themselves a bronze in the men's elimination race. That was Henry Hobbs there. In the women's sprint, Sophie Capewell lost out to Wales's Emma Finucane in the final there. The bronze also going to Wales's Rhian Edmonds. And then over in the men's keirin, England's Harry Ledingham Hall took bronze. Over in the boxing, it's been a mixed bag of results today in the semi-finals. A win for Ruby White in the 51 kg, but losses for Lucy Kings-Wheatley and Mary-Kate Smith, both in their matches. So they will come out with bronze medals, and then still to come in the men's 60 kg. Wales's Owain Harris Allen will be in action. And then Sammy Ball over in the decathlon has just been pushed out of the medal positions, but there is still the final event in the decathlon to come, so he can still get himself onto that podium.
Commonwealth Games update on talkSPORT with BYD. Dare to dream with BYD and the Commonwealth Games.
Okay, next up, we'll be taking a look at Tottenham Hotspur's continued pledge to spend money this summer.
Up and said you got 10 players better than John Stones.
I said all time. I didn't say Prem, but let's stick to Prem. All right, let's do this.
Go on.
Virgil van Dijk, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, that's five.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we going Tony Adams?
Ooh, yeah.
No,
you're not gonna say.
No, but go on.
I would.
Campbell.
I'd do Sol Campbell, defo.
And I'm a Tottenham
Sol
fan.
Campbell,
Sol
come
Campbell
on,
out.
come on, Jamie.
Keep going.
I'm going Sol Campbell.
Yeah.
Oh. Gary Pallister.
Carvalho.
Mate, come on.
Carvalho.
Don't help him. Why are you helping him? Carvalho's not better than John Stones.
Carvalho. Ricardo Carvalho.
Jamie, hear
Give me a break, man.
On his day, prime for prime, one game for a final, Ledley King.
Yeah, Ledley King. What, you telling me Ledley King? Oh, come on, Jamie.
Listen, Jamie, not the career, but for one game in his prime.
I watched John Stones playing the Champions League final.
I know he was
City.
unbelievable.
He was unbelievable. So let's.
I hear it, but you know
come
what
on.
I think, yeah? I heard.
You can't be putting Ledley King above John Stones. He's won 6 Premier League titles.
Phil Jagielka, mate. Phil Jagielka.
Holy shut up, mate. Come on.
I mean, mate, Jamie.
Jolyon Lescott.
I would go as far as to say if Jan Vertonghen and Alderweireld played in that City team, they might have won the same honours.
Gary Cahill.
They would have won the same honours.
He's on Gary Cahill's level.
You're just making a lot of noise, Cole.
Welcome back to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with myself, Rickie Haywood-Williams, and alongside me, broadcaster and Aston Villa fan, Dan Bardell. So, Tottenham are looking to complete another bomber transfer, says coach Roberto De Zerbi, who described himself like a shark when looking to complete the signing of a desired player. Bomber is a term frequently used by fans on social media for a sudden or unexpected transfer signing, and De Zerbi said, "We have completed 60% of our project in the transfer market. Now we have another bomber."
Do you know what a bomber was before tonight? Because I've got to be honest, I didn't.
I didn't know.
I've been saying it wrong as well all day.
It's definitely bomber. Look, it could be bomber, but it's definitely bomber. Have you been impressed though with Spurs and their transfer business so far?
Yeah, reluctantly, I have. I've upset Spurs fans a few times over the last month or so I probably have to be a little bit careful with how I speak about them. You can't fail but be impressed with what they've done. You can argue the toss of whether they've overpaid for players or not, but you can do that with any transfer nowadays that happens in the modern day because the prices are absolutely ridiculous. I think they've behaved in a way that maybe their fans have wanted them to behave for a long time, which has took me by surprise because I didn't really see that coming. It's not something they've ever done. I know it's not Daniel Levy there anymore, but I don't think you'd have believed that they'd have gone from what they were previously to the level that they're operating now.
Yep.
To some extent, they have to do it because they've got a manager now that to get his full buy-in and to make sure he doesn't walk away, you have to back him because he's a volatile character. And in fairness to him, in the time he's had at the helm at Tottenham, he's done everything he could. Him keeping them up was absolutely huge. There was times where I thought they're definitely going to go here and it's going to be one of the biggest stories the Premier League's ever had. But he kept them up and now they've got that thing that's quite dangerous, a little bit of belief and a little bit of momentum, and they're chucking some money at it
and
as
a
well.
bit of money as well. I heard as well that basically because De Zerbi was so committed to the project, and even he said, you know, even if we go down, I'm going to stay with Spurs.
Yeah.
And that commitment and that drive and that passion has allowed him to kind of, you know, be unleashed in the transfer market as well. And he's been very, very front-footed, and he's going after the players. And we know that he was instrumental in bringing Tonali down from Newcastle as well, because I think they've got like a bit of a connection. They both played for Brescia, or they have a connection at Brescia as well in Italy. So because I thought to myself, why is Tonali going to Spurs? But obviously De Zerbi was a massive part of that.
Well, I assume money might have something to do with it as well, because I imagine he's getting paid pretty handsomely for going there. The lifestyle of living in London seems like it's something that's going to appeal to him as well. That's a sign that you just would never have predicted at the start of the transfer window.
Yeah, absolutely.
No way you'd have seen him going there. If I'd have had to have predicted where Tonali would have gone this summer, I'd have said Arsenal.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't have predicted Bruno Guimaraes going to Arsenal.
True. I thought Arsenal as well, to be fair,
It felt like the logical step, didn't it? Tonali's had a mixed bag at Newcastle, and there's obviously been external things and external matters that have not helped things, but he's a good footballer, all-round midfielder, can do a little bit of everything. If De Zerbi's the one that can coax the best out of him, then they're going to have a sensational midfielder on their hands. And you feel like De Zerbi as well, because he's got such a defined way of playing. He's signing players that fit what he wants to do, which not all top Premier League teams have done over the last few years.
Do you expect them, like, let's be real, do you expect Tottenham to be that much better under Roberto De Zerbi this season? What do they actually look like?
Yeah, I do. I said earlier on in the show, I think it's geared towards the big six being the top six this season. I don't know whether that's even happened for the last 10 years, because it's
been a while, isn't it?
It feels like there's always a team that has a bad season, or two teams that have a bad season. Obviously Man U have fell off a cliff over the years. Chelsea have had a couple of really bad seasons in the last 4 years. Spurs have finished 17th twice in a row, so that won't have happened for a long time. And there's also been teams like Villa, Newcastle, Forest, who've tried to disrupt and to an extent have, because I think in the last 4 seasons, either Villa or Newcastle have finished in the top 5 and got in the Champions League. So there's definitely been disruptors in there as well. I just think it's going to be really hard for the rest now, because this is a serious Tottenham Hotspur. Like, going and spending the money that they have, getting the players in, and maybe even some of the players that they thought might leave. Like, they've signed Romero's replacement. Is Romero going? What's happening there? So they could actually end up with quite a depthful squad, if I don't think that's a word, like a squad full of depth.
Yeah.
They haven't got Europe, but actually might be quite hard to keep everyone happy.
Yeah, interesting. Fast forward to this time next season. If Spurs do really well this season, if they get into the Champions League, let's just put that out there for a second.
I think that's a feasible possibility.
Yeah. They're making a big investment in the squad. Could we see Harry Kane come back from Germany back to Spurs to try and get that goal scoring record off of Alan Shearer?
Well, it depends who the bomber is. The bomber could be a fast striker. I wish we knew who the bomber was. Some people are going to be listening now thinking, what's he going on about with the word bomber?
So bomber, just like like an unexpected or sudden transfer. That's what people say on social media. Well, I've been hearing, obviously unconfirmed, but potentially it could be Marcus Rashford. What do you think about that? Could you see Rashford at Spurs next season?
I'm just trying to think of the construction of Tottenham's team, and the front three does feel like the next bit that probably needs a revamp, because they've done a little bit everywhere else, haven't they?
Yeah.
Like they've changed nearly every area. They've decided Kinski's going to be number 1 by the looks of it, which I actually think is a really good decision doing that. I think he's actually got potential to be a brilliant goalkeeper. It's the attack that needs refreshing, and De Zerbi will want his type of player in there. Rashford would fit that mould of, like, it's fast football, isn't it? It's intense football. It's maybe he wouldn't always fit the pressing, but everything they do is fast.
Yeah,
is a De Zerbi teams.
Kudus to come back as well.
Yeah,
Kulusevski's been out for an absolute age, but I'm sure he should be back.
Brilliant footballer.
Yeah, very
lovely
good
footballer.
They missed him a lot, right?
Yeah, Rashford would be a good pickup for them. Rashford's an unbelievable player.
I think that would be a great signing for Spurs. If they could get hold of Marcus Rashford on a 2-year deal, I think you could get the best of Marcus Rashford. I'm
just not sure he'd go there. I'm not sure he fancies another Premier League move. But then he needs to know his situation at Manchester United. It's felt quite obvious he wasn't going to Barca, yet there was only really stuff about that yesterday.
Yep.
It seemed like he'd realised himself yesterday that he wasn't going to go to Barcelona, and he did his thank you post. I think he'll fancy his chances of breaking into the Manchester United team. It's whether he thinks everything's too far gone with Manchester United now, but with Carrick at the helm and it being a little bit happier there, I'm not sure that's the case.
I can't. I think the insiders at Manchester United, I think they think that Rashford's had his time. I really do, and all the Man United fans that I speak to who loved Marcus Rashford just think that they can't forgive him for how he left and like the manner in which he left, and I can't see it. I'd love to see it, because I think he'd be great at Manchester United again. I think he improves the team.
Yeah, Man U have spent a lot of money.
Or definitely improves the squad.
Yeah, it 100% improves the squad. I would argue that the players they bought in, although probably plays in slightly different position to a lot of them, I think he's a better attacker than some of the attackers they've spent money on, and they've done well at Manchester United, Cunha and Mbeumo, but I think Rashford's a better footballer than him.
Yeah, and obviously it's a squad game. You interchange. I remember a couple of seasons ago when Liverpool we had about 5 attackers, and in years gone by you'd think that was too many, but you take one in, you take one out, and it works.
The ambition is to play a lot of football, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ambition is to go deep in the Champions League and push towards the top of the Premier League for all these teams that are in the Champions League, Manchester United being one of them. You need a squad. I know this isn't a Manchester United segment, but they haven't got the depth to compete at the moment. They're miles off the depth to compete in multiple fronts, I would say.
But Roberto De Zerbi, he's got a reputation for kind of imploding after a couple of years at various clubs. Do you think he's in it for the long haul? Can you see him there for 3, 4, 5 years maybe?
Has he been at a club with the potential, the infrastructure that Tottenham have before?
Arguably not.
Probably not. If you look at the facilities they're working with in terms of the ground, the training ground's unbelievable. He's being backed. He's getting in big players for big money, players that fit what he wants to do. If that kind of thing continues, he'll stay there because he won't get a better setup anywhere else. It's not very often in the Premier League the managers are given the complete autonomy or complete keys to the castle. There's very few in the Premier League that have got that. Maybe Arteta, maybe Alonso might get that. Unai Emery's definitely got it at Villa.
Yeah.
If he gets that at Spurs, where better is there for him to go and flourish? Probably nowhere.
Yeah, interesting points. We shall see how that one pans out. But let's find out right now what the latest is in the Scottish Premiership between Dundee United and Rangers. Here's John Dunn.
33 minutes gone at Tannadice, 33 minutes gone. Dundee United 0, Rangers 0. Rangers bossed the opening stages, then started to even out a bit, but it is Rangers that have had the two decent efforts towards goal, as I pause as Othello Asgard let's strike from the edge of the area. That was blocked. Jack Walton in the Dundee United goal, signed from Preston in the summer. Two good saves. The first after 3 minutes from Shankland from a cheeky back heel that was tipped around the post. And a moment ago, Dujon Sterling got down the right-hand side. A cross looped into the air. It was Ryan Nadiri, a header back across the goal, aimed towards the bottom right corner, but Walton at full stretch to turn the ball away. For Dundee United, certainly causing problems, and a real threat from Will Ferry's long throws, but so far Rangers have dealt with those. Rangers do have a corner as we speak. Closing in on half-time, it's Dundee United 0, Rangers 0.
John Dunn there reporting for talkSPORT. Now next we'll be taking a look at our respective clubs, Dan, Liverpool and Aston Villa, and how they're shaping up for the new season.
Staying with Liverpool, there are some reports that they have now made a formal offer worth £100 million for Bradley Barcola. I reported a couple of days ago that Barcola wanted to make the move to Anfield, but you've not been too inspired by this possibility.
No, I'm with Jamie Carragher in the camp that I saw him the other day talking about it. We have like 3-4 left wingers already, players who can play there. We need to fill the void by Salah. Frimpong was meant to help with that, but we know he's got medical injury issues last year and not quite what we like to see out wide right when he did play. We need a right winger. It's concerning. And we're going out and we're getting another pacey player who plays on the left majority of the time. So unless Rio's going to get put on the right, square pegs, round holes, all that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't love it because of the money. If he was 60, 70 million, and I get it, he's not. Yeah. You think, okay, it's a no-brainer. Then you maybe sell Gakpo and you clear up some space on the left and you still go get a right winger. But Liverpool right now are playing with one centre-back and the other centre-back on one leg. So, they've got issues. McAllister's going to come back. He was a shadow of himself last year. They need some help in central midfield. Potentially need a right back because really we haven't got a right back. Frimpong's obviously going to play.
Joe Gomez is now going to miss the start of the season.
Yeah, that's Joe Gomez. God bless him. He could have been a world-class defender, but obviously injuries have stopped that. So Liverpool have got a lot of holes to fill. So, and you got to start a right wing to fill Mo Salah's, departure. So it does concern me that we're going down this rabbit hole where we might end up paying, I don't know, like the Weirts money. You overpay, and then does the player adapt to the Premier League, and is it another bad signing? And it's frustrating for me.
Welcome back to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Rickie Haywood-Williams, and Dan Bardell, massive Villa fan. So, the sun is shining, so make sure you grab a pint of So Good Lager from talkSPORT. And meantime, it's available in all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports bars across the country. Find out where your nearest pub is at talksport.com/so good. 18 plus, always drink responsibly. All right, so we're going to talk about our respective clubs here, Dan. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. You are a massive Villa fan. We've got to start with Harvey Elliott. What happened to Harvey Elliott? Oh my gosh.
How long have you got? Probably need two or three parts.
He said that he's got no regrets over last season.
I will say, whatever happened, what a respectful, brilliant person, because it would be very easy to come out and speak ill of his time at Villa, speak ill of Unai Emery. Obviously, it was an absolute disastrous loan. I think Unai Emery himself described the whole circumstance as embarrassing.
Dan, got to stop you there. I think we got a goal in the game. Dundee United versus Rangers. John Dunn.
38 minutes gone, Dundee United 1, Rangers 0. A goal totally against the run of play, and it's Lackey Rose, a signing from Australia, from Newcastle Jets in the summer. It's his 4th goal in 5 games, and it's a ball in from the right-hand side. It was a rare attack for Dundee United. Rangers have been so dominant, but Randall got down the right, a cross in. It was a delicate touch, didn't catch it as he would have wanted, but there was just enough off the toe of his boot to get it beyond Ivor Pandor on his debut in the Rangers goal. Just couldn't react to stop it creeping over the line. Rangers have had the chances, but Dundee United have got the goal. 6 minutes before the break, Dundee United 1, Rangers 0.
Oh, John, we just saw that goal. God, it's a bit of a messy one, wasn't it?
Very scrappy, as I say. He's come into this on form. Dundee United have already played 4 games, and Rose has scored in 3 of them before today. It was can you even call it a toe poke? It's just brushed his toe off the post. The goalkeeper and defender desperately trying to get there to stop it. They can't, and it's pandemonium inside Tannadice. 1-0 Dundee United.
Listen, they all count. Great work there from John Dunn. Dundee United versus Rangers. Dundee going up 1-0 just then in the 39th minute. Brilliant stuff.
One of the only times I've watched a football match and thought, I could have scored.
100%. We both could have scored that. But yeah, we were talking about Harvey Elliott and him saying that he's got no regrets over last season. Obviously, he was he went across to Aston Villa from Liverpool last season and didn't really play much. He played a couple of games, really, like maybe a handful of games, didn't he?
Yeah, it's a lost year for him. I felt really sorry for him across the whole duration of his loan spell. I think Unai Emery obviously had to make a difficult decision from his perspective, an embarrassing decision maybe from the club's perspective. Unai Emery called the whole situation embarrassing himself in a press conference when he was asked about it. It's one of those where I think he obviously had a different player in mind. Villa couldn't deliver that player. It was a difficult summer for Villa 12 months ago. And maybe the construction of the loan deal didn't suit what Unai Emery wanted. Sporting director left pretty quickly after that happened.
It was a season-long loan deal, wasn't it? From last September, with an obligation for them to buy the midfielder for 35 million once he'd made 10 appearances for the club. But I think he only featured 9 times, playing 277 minutes in total.
I'm surprised it was that many minutes.
Yeah.
Honestly, I spent more time at Villa Park than he did last season. It just didn't work at all. And I really hope he can go and rebuild himself, because I think the worst thing about it from the player's perspective was he'd just come off the back of the under-21s tournament, and he was a star.
He had a blinder, didn't he?
Tournament.
Absolute blinder.
He obviously made the decision to leave Liverpool to try and go somewhere and play every
Which would have been really hard for him because he's a Liverpool fan.
And look, he spoke really respectfully about Liverpool when he left as well, just as he has spoken about Villa really respectfully as well. I think he's got good family around him, good people around him as well. I hope he can get a gig somewhere, whether that be at Liverpool, maybe he gets a fresh start under Iraola, or whether it's elsewhere. He just won't be a Villa.
When I saw that he was coming back, it did make me very, very happy, because I love Harvey. I love Harvey Elliott. He's a Liverpool fan. He loves the club, and he's got quality. He's not a top level player yet. Will he get there? It remains to be seen. But from what I can see as a Liverpool fan, under Arne Slot, he definitely shrunk the squad down. He let a lot of players go. So I just think we need to get bodies in. And Harvey's got quality. So I think getting back in and getting playing again.
You could have used him last season.
100%.
He'd have got games, wouldn't he, if he'd have been around it?
I'll be honest, and it might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Harvey could have done a better job overall last season in our team than Florian Wirtz. I think Florian Wirtz took a long time to settle. Florian Wirtz has got a higher ceiling. He's a better player. I think most people would agree on that. But I think Harvey knows the league already. I think he would have been more effective over the course of the whole season last year.
He's probably never played in the position that Wirtz was playing for Liverpool? Has he never been given a run as a number 10? I know they played differently under Klopp, so he would be players like a right-sided 8, wouldn't he, under Klopp? He had one season where he played there a lot and did really well.
Klopp played him in. Klopp played him kind of like a right-sided midfielder for quite a while.
Yeah,
kind of like a 10 at times as well. But he's got quality to do it. He does have the quality to do it, but and he's got a goal in him as well.
Yeah, but Raiola might be a fresh start for him at Liverpool. Obviously, he's going to get a chance now in pre-season because Liverpool, like most big teams, will have players coming back late from the World Cup. If you look at the teams that are lining up for most of the big boys in friendlies right now, like it's nowhere near what the first 11's going to be. But what that does do, it maybe gives an opportunity for a player who you've forgotten about or a player that's been a little bit out of the picture to come in and stake a claim. And it will be the case at many clubs. Like, obviously, Liverpool have got another kind of young English player in Curtis Jones, whose future feels a little bit up in the air as well, who I think is a fantastic player. Curtis Jones just needs a run of games somewhere, whether that be at Liverpool or elsewhere. But he's got a shot. Yeah, in the end, it hasn't worked out at Villa, but inadvertently what it might do is get him back to Liverpool, because if he'd have played 10 games for Villa, obviously he'd be a Villa player now. And that hasn't ended up happening, and he'll have learned a hell of a lot from the adversity that he had last season as well. Carried himself really well throughout, and he did get himself a medal. I think he didn't play very much in the Europa League run, but he has technically got a Europa League medal as well.
I always feel sorry for a player that doesn't play that big a part in a campaign and you win a trophy, and then everyone's lifting the trophy at the end and they look kind of sheepish. They don't really want to do it, but the Villa players look like they kind of backed him.
Yeah, the Villa players spoke really well about him, spoke about how positive he was in training, never let them down. Like, in adversity, he's been a really good teammate at Villa, which is probably more than maybe the club deserved with what happened with him, and many players wouldn't have handled themselves the way that Harvey Elliott has, and hopefully it all works out in the end.
Liverpool feel like they've got an early centre-back crisis again. Joe Gomez forced off by injury in the 8th minute against Sunderland, and neither Jeremy Jacquet or Giovanni Leone fit to play still. Have Liverpool got a problem in the heart of defence? Do we need a new player? A new centre-back?
100%. I'm actually really worried that you're going to try and come and get Ezri Konsa. 2 years left on his contract, yet to sign a new contract with Villa.
I'd take him. I think he's a
definite vacancy there, isn't it? I'm pretty worried about it. 2 people in the talkSPORT office have mentioned Konsa to Liverpool to me.
Really?
2 we would probably know as well. One of them's a Liverpool fan, one of them's an ex-player, not an ex-Liverpool player, but an ex-Premier League player. They've said a couple of things about Konsa's Liverpool, which makes me concerned.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me. I've heard also people saying that Liverpool should have done everything to sign John Stones. I don't think that would have been a good move.
Too similar to Van Dijk?
I think too similar to Joe Gomez in the sense that they're always injured. Do you know what I mean?
Poor Joe Gomez.
Poor Joe Gomez. I love Joe Gomez. I think he's been there for such a long time, and he's been a great servant, but he just cannot stay fit. And he'll always have a special place in my heart because he was Virgil van Dijk's centre back partner when we won the league the first time under Klopp. So that always that sits very highly for me. But yeah, John Stones. I think John Stones has made the right decision going to Italy.
That'll suit him.
Yeah, slower game. I think he'll be able to run the game out there. Yeah, much better for him, I reckon. So they've been linked with a move for AC Milan centre back Fikayo Tomori, Liverpool. I think that would be a good signing. I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I think because maybe it's not a position that was identified in recruitment when the transfer window opened, it's suddenly turned into something that might be a little bit of a priority. Sometimes you have to be smart with the way that you pick up players. Tomori's got Premier League experience. He's got Champions League experience. Obviously, he's English as well. I think that's like a smart pickup rather than like a top pickup where everyone's like, wow, what a signing. I think when you've signed 2 young centre-backs in the last 12 months anyway, in Leone and Xhaka, that would be a good pickup for Liverpool. It'd be a smart signing in my book.
Interesting. All right, let's find out what the latest is with Scottish Premiership between Dundee United and Rangers with John Dunn.
Half-time whistle has just gone. It's Dundee United 1, Rangers 0 in Derek McInnes' first league game as manager of Rangers. It looked to be going okay. Within 3 minutes, Lawrence Shankland, who had followed McInnes from Hearts to Rangers with an effort that was turned around the post by debutant goalkeeper Jack Walton. Walton on hand to steer a Nadiri looping header away from goal just half an hour in. Then a couple of efforts, the first from Sterling at right back, stepping in onto his left foot, right of the deal, left-footed shot that was narrowly wide. Mohamed Diamande with a dip nipping shot that dropped onto the roof of the goal. Dundee United had hardly threatened, but on 38 minutes they got the only goal of this first half. And Lackey Rose, who joined from Australia from Newcastle Jets in the summer, scoring his 4th goal in 5 games of this season, proving to be an astute signing already. Josh Randall down the right-hand side, a fellow Australian. His ball in. Zach Stapsford will give him the credit by saying it was a step over. I think he was trying to flick it towards the goal. But as it went through the legs of Stapsford, it was Rose who reacted quickly, stuck out a boot. It's glanced off his toe, and it has just rolled agonisingly beyond Ivor Pando, the debutant goalkeeper in the Rangers goal. Crept in off the post, over the line, and that is the goal that separates the teams at half-time. Dundee United 1, Rangers 0.
John Dunn there reporting for talkSPORT. Next up, we'll be taking a closer look at a side who've had a bit of upheaval during the off-season. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, broadcaster, Liverpool fan as well, Rickie Haywood-Williams, and alongside me, broadcaster and Aston Villa superfan, Mr. Dan Bardell. So, Bournemouth. We've got to talk Bournemouth. How are Bournemouth preparing for life without Andoni Iraola, who's departed for Liverpool? Now, Bournemouth will play European football for the first time in their history next season as they compete in the Europa League. Their 6th place finish came at a cost, however, as like I just mentioned, boss Andoni Iraola left for Liverpool, which I'm very, very happy about, I've got to say, but has been replaced by Marco Rose. Right now, we've got a guest joining us, Craig Beasley from the Up the Cherries in All Departments podcast. Craig, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Rickie. Thank you, Dan. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're really good, man. Thanks for joining us this evening. So listen, it's been a momentous season for you guys, but are you concerned about going into the new season without Andoni Iraola, who done so great for you last season?
Andoni did an absolutely fantastic job. How he actually managed the team from top to bottom, how he brought on players, and even players that aren't with us anymore. Antoine Semenyo, for example, what he did and how he improved him from a player that was a little bit inconsistent at Bristol City into the player that we see today now playing very, very and consistent for Man City. So. Yes, it's going to be a bit of a shock to the system. I think we've got to lower expectations, but also we've got to give Europe a real good go. You look at what Forest did last season, and it's very possible that we can have a run like that. I'm not going to say that we can win the thing, but Andone is a massive loss. In fact, we did a thank you video to Andoni Iraola, and Alex Scott's grandfather sent in a video saying thank you to Andoni, and that shows exactly how well loved he was by every single player at the club.
Absolutely. Let us know how much of a blow you think it will be that Krupi, you're going to be without Krupi for an extended period of time, basically.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. So, yeah, it's going to be about 3-4 months that we're going to be without Krupi. Luckily, the surgery has been successful. There was a nice picture alongside his mother and father, who actually attend games as well. And of course, his father was a professional footballer as well himself. He's going to be a big, big loss. And it's going to give opportunities to other players around the squad. Of course, we have just recently signed Rodriguez from Elche. So he looks a good, promising striker. However, you've also got to consider he's another youngster who's coming into the fray. It might take a little bit of time to get going. Enisu now, I think it would be silly to let him go out on loan or sell him to anybody within this window now with Krupi's injury. But we've also got to consider that maybe this has also warded off the sharks that were circling, because there was rumours of a number of clubs, most notably Barcelona, who were really, really interested in Krupi. And he's going to be a big loss, but at the same time, I think that he's going to have a big part to play in that second half of the season.
I was going to say, bear with me here, because I don't think it's the worst news in the world, Krupi Jr. getting injured, with the big teams that are looking at him. If you take into account the extended international breaks as well, like that actually might get you him for the majority or the bulk of the season. Whereas if you'd have lost him this summer, he'd have been a huge loss. What I actually want to ask you is, obviously you've got Ryan on the wing, who you picked up in January from Brazil, who is an absolutely sensational player.
What a player!
Yeah. Watching him in the Europa League must be something that you're really, really looking forward to.
Oh, definitely. When he signed from Vasco da Gama, he was very much unknown to a lot of people. However, I watched a little bit of him. We did an interview actually with somebody who's based out in Brazil, and really sang his praises, and everything that was in that interview has come true. He's fast, he's quick, he cuts in the inside. In fact, he just reminds me of a little bit of a younger Antoine Semenyo. He might not have the build, but there's a lot of quality. And what we've done so well, and a lot of this has to go to, and thanks for this, has to go to Thiago Pinto. And of course, Simon Francis, who's just left the club, unfortunately, is that they preempt a situation. They can see something potentially happening and they line something else up. I have no doubt, and of course there is teams interested in Rayan now, but I think we should be able to keep hold of him.
He's got a release clause, isn't he? But it doesn't. Yeah, it's quite a high one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. I think that we actually realised after we got, and I wouldn't say stung, because of Dean Howson's release clause to Real Madrid when they paid that and bought that out. But in all honesty, I think we've preempted that these players are going to see AFC Bournemouth as a stepping stone. We're not the final destination for them. We are still a very, very small club. Yes, the stadium might be getting improved from 11,000, but there's always going to be ambition for these players, and they will go to other clubs. I bet they've got a plan. If Alex Scott is sold during this window, which is a big concern, to be perfectly honest, I'm sure they have got a contingency plan in place and a player that is on the radar.
Will Antonio Silva effectively be Marco Senesi's replacement?
I think he will do. I do like Bafode Diakite, and I think he had a really good start to last season. He lost a bit of confidence, but I'm hoping Marco Rosa does give him a chance. He will come on leaps and bounds again, I'm sure. You know, there's a really good player in there, but the confidence went. I think that, yes, Silva will partner alongside James Hill. But then again, we can't forget Milisakovic as well, who was absolutely brilliant signing. He's under the age of 20 years old, and there's a lot of promise in the Serbian. I can see him being a big player for the future. So, yeah, he's one to keep an eye on. But will he have to sit in fourth position in our defensive lineup? Maybe. Is he a player that goes out on loan? I'm not sure. But I think Marco Silva, what is great is he is giving players like Diakite a chance. So it's not a given that Silva comes in, but I would expect James Hill will be partnering Silva.
Craig, it looks like another exciting season ahead for your team at Bournemouth.
Yes.
Thanks for passing by tonight, mate.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, a pleasure as always, guys.
Great stuff. Craig Beattie there from the Up the Cherries in All Departments podcast. All right, so next up, we'll be taking a look at the biggest transfer news on the talkSPORT website. Let's bring in Terry Gibson, Spanish football expert. Terry, always good to speak to you. Lots of news stories over in Spain at the moment. Let's start with that Marcus Rashford farewell post to Barcelona. Looks like his hopes of return to the Camp Nou are now very much over.
Yes, it does, and I think it was a blow to him when Anthony Gordon. It must have been kind of awkward when the England team met up for the World Cup when Anthony Gordon had already completed his move to Barcelona. Marcus Rashford's future was hanging in the air. And then they signed Karim Adeyemi. So it's not going to happen now for Marcus Rashford. I have to be honest, I'm really surprised. I thought it was a good value in terms of the transfer fee. And I thought his form last season was as good as you would expect. And he couldn't have done any more. He scored some important goals. He actually effectively got the goal that won them the league title. He was popular with his teammates and popular with the fans. So I'm surprised. Even when Anthony Gordon signed, I still thought there was a possibility that Rashford would still go, but the signing of Adeyemi has put a stop to that.
Is it just wages? Because obviously Anthony Gordon would command a much lower weekly salary than Rashford.
But he was £80 million. Rashford was 26.
Yeah.
So 26 million, slightly difference in their ages as well. People are forgetting they've got Rafinha that plays there as well. So the problem positions that everyone thought they had, and they still have, are centre forward, Lewandowski.
Over the years, we've been treated to some amazing exhibition events in sports. Some become iconic, but many fail to live up to the hype. So what are some of the most anticlimactic exhibitions? Technically, it wasn't an exhibition because it ended up being sanctioned as a pro fight, but it basically was. 2024 saw Mike Tyson return to the ring to fight YouTuber Jake Paul. The event, which Paul won, was streamed by 65 million people on Netflix, making it the most streamed sporting event ever at the time. But many complained of buffering and freezing. And as for the fight itself, well, it was considered an entertaining disaster. I mean, it wasn't prime Tyson. He was 58. And after the fight, Paul, who was 27 at the time, said he'd actually gone easy on Tyson towards the end. Now, Mayweather-McGregor in 2017 was a better watch, despite Mayweather going rope-a-dope early on, but it was way too expensive. Pay-per-view was 75 quid. And in the stadium, The cheapest ticket was over $370. Now, this next one you could have watched for free, only because the pay-per-view had streaming issues, so they had to open it out. I'm talking about Tiger versus Phil in 2018, which was nicknamed The Match. Massive names and massive rivals going head-to-head. On paper, it worked. In reality, it didn't. The two players were mic'd up, so we all thought we'll get fascinating insight. We'll be able to hear them insult each other for 18 holes. But what we actually got was more heavy breathing and sniffles. And for two GOATs, the golf itself was bang average. And speaking of GOATs, let's end with Messi and Ronaldo. In 2023, an exhibition between PSG and the Riyadh All-Star 11 saw them share a pitch for possibly the final time. To be fair, it was a goal fest, which PSG won 5-4, and Messi and Ronaldo both scored. But it was obvious they were past their prime. El Clasico, this was not. And with it being in Saudi, there were more sports washing claims. So there you have it, exhibitions that have let us down. And I didn't even have time to mention the Community Shield.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Rickie Haywood-Williams, and alongside me, broadcaster and Aston Villa fan Dan Bardell. Right now, we are joined by talkSPORT website writer Jack Cunningham. Jack, how are you, sir?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really
Ricky,
good,
nice
man. Really good. Really
Dan, it's been a long time no see.
I know, I'm sick of you today.
So what's going on? You two got previous. What's happening here?
We've worked together this afternoon.
You literally worked together this afternoon.
That's the first time I've seen Jack smile all day because we've been talking about Newcastle.
No, it's pretty grim, wasn't it?
Okay, you two are putting the shift in today. Fair play to you. Fair play. All right, so Jack, you are here with the latest transfer news and rumours, right?
Yeah, I am indeed, yeah.
So Mykhailo Mudryk, free to play again.
He's back. It's kind of come out of nowhere. So we go back to December 2024 when he gets the temporary ban that they said at the time for meldonium found in his system. So essentially it is a drug that is on the WADA banned list. So it's classed as a performance-enhancing drug. The whole argument behind it from Mudryk's point of view was that he didn't knowingly take it. It was in something he had. Or basically, it was an accident. And of course, then they've got to try and prove that that's not the case. But he's lost a year and a half of his career. And in the end, they had two samples. They came back, both did come back positive, and they did hand him a 4-year ban initially. But then now, suddenly out of nowhere, obviously new evidence come to light. And the FA have decided that actually, okay, you can return to play football.
Yeah.
And he's going to join Chelsea's pre-season tour.
Instantly.
So, but he's not playing football. His last game was in November 2024 against Heidenheim in the Conference League. Now, for Chelsea, when he signed from Shakhtar Donetsk, we've got to remember how exciting that signing seemed to be, because Arsenal thought they were going to get him.
Yeah,
and in the end, Chelsea come in and did a classic transfer hijack. I know not enough about them, but anyway, that's another story. No, Mudryk, in the sense of, it looked like a really exciting signing. Now he's made 73 appearances. I think it's very much fair to say that he's not hit anywhere near the heights that we would have expected. How is this going to work? Because this seems like it could be a little bit of a boost for Alonso in the end. Like a player he wasn't really probably expecting, and now he's got a chance to maybe mould him into something.
I reckon if he wasn't expecting it, it's probably not ideal.
Do you think so?
Well, not because they've got no Europe. They're
point,
going to have a fairly large squad. And I'm imagining, I haven't seen Chelsea's list recently, but I'm imagining it's pretty big. Like, might come to a point where they can't even register him. If they weren't planning for that, I would not be shocked to see him go to Strasbourg.
Could it be another Raheem Sterling thing where he's like training at 8:30 at night or something like that?
You know what? That'd be so sad.
It would be sad.
Because he's just come back from something that in the end it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
And then they just stick him in the reserves. But you know what? He's got so long left on his contract.
He signed like an 8-year contract or something, didn't he?
And so when did he join? Was it January 2023? like
that.
Yeah. And he's got just left on his contract.
Well, listen, happy that he's back. Hopefully he can get his career back on track. But listen, let's talk about Chelsea dodging that points deduction.
Yeah, so essentially this goes back to when they self-reported themselves for 74 breaches of FA rules. Initially, the punishment was a 10.75 million fine and a suspended 6-point deduction and suspended 1-year transfer ban. On appeal, they've managed to now get that down to a 10 million fine and a suspended 2-window transfer ban rather than a full year. The argument behind it is that Chelsea self-reported themselves because it was something that happened during the Abramovich era. It wasn't anything to do with the Bowley era. Yep. And got to be honest, they've got away with it, to be fair. Because if you look at what the charges are, they're pretty shocking. Yeah. We're talking secret payments to Eden Hazard's agents. We're talking secret payments to Antonio Conte's agents that weren't on the books. So PSR never factored them in. And the only punishment they're getting is a suspended 2-window transfer ban.
They got a transfer ban for less than that previously.
Yeah.
When Frank Lampard was in charge, yeah.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
No. And this is what annoys me as like a fan of a team who's trying to actually get into this, big six or whatever. Yeah. Because if that's the punishment that they're getting, then why don't Aston Villa and Newcastle go and spend 500 million quid each?
Makes me think, let's just break some rules and chance our arm.
Let's break some rules.
Chelsea have won
Premier League,
around 13 major trophies in that time.
Yeah.
Like in question.
Yeah, and this is the thing, this is like a serious thing, but because they self-reported themselves.
That's all right then.
What?
Is this UEFA? It's not Premier League, UEFA.
This is FA.
It's FA?
Yeah, it's
FA. So UEFA seem to be a bit strict.
Yeah, UEFA.
FA, don't they?
Yeah, UEFA.
Maybe that's the problem for Newcastle and Villa.
But this is still, I feel they're kind of just sweeping it under the carpet. Yeah. This is a serious thing.
It's a massive deal, but, the rules are the rules. If that's the lay of the land, then they kind of get away with it.
Yeah, they're the favoured clubs, isn't it? Go on, do what you want.
Newcastle, close to signing the goalkeeper.
Hey, finally.
Come on.
Me and Dan spoke about this earlier because I'm not a Nick Pope fan. Bless him. He's just finished as a Premier League goalkeeper. So, Horny Czech's coming in, £25 million deal agreed, 24-year-old Czech goalkeeper. He was meant to play for Braga last night in their Conference League game. He sat out that. There was a few reports in Portugal saying Newcastle had triggered the clause, but now it's been confirmed by very reliable British sources. He is going to fly out and meet Newcastle in their pre-season training camp, where he will meet the new manager, who is also going to be joining tomorrow as well.
Yes.
So a lot going on at Newcastle.
Is it too little too late for Newcastle?
I think a lot more needs to be done, so that's going to be 5 signings. We always knew that we needed a goalkeeper. I think they've addressed most of the other issues, but I don't think anyone was expecting Bruno to leave. I think that was the issue. I think Tonali and Gordon, I think it was kind of like, I can see them leaving. I couldn't see Bruno leaving.
As a Newcastle fan, does that one really hurt? Because obviously Bruno's one of your own.
Yeah, Bruno does really hurt. I think my view of Bruno was that I would have kept him. I would have actually forced him to stay if Howe was going to stay, because Howe can't win without him, and it almost became like almost like a mental thing. It's a bit strange, but it did feel like that. I think now, Howe is gone, I think with the new manager coming in, I'd feel less sad about him going now, because it's kind of ripping up and starting it again.
I think as a fan, you kind of have to, you got to let it go. As soon as you know they're going, or it feels like they're really close to going, you have to just like cut ties emotionally, don't you?
I agree, but at one point, I do want to say club win one of these situations. Yeah. I don't think a player should just be able to essentially say, I know Bruno's not done anything like an Isak or anything like that, but he could have got to that point.
Yeah.
You're talking about like Newcastle's incoming transfer business, and if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be worried. I said that to you earlier.
You did.
With Bruno, they can't really afford to replace him with the ilk of player that they've been buying this window. Like they need someone that's Premier League ready, a ready now player, plug in and play. Like how are they going to do that? Where is that player?
The big name at the moment being linked is Victor Frodholt from Porto. He's got quite a big release clause. Again, young, very talented though midfielder, and that one might be one to watch. I feel like they're not going to be doing a plug in and play Bruno replacement either, because genuinely, right, I'm trying to think, how do you replace him? I think he is so good at getting the ball from the build-up play. He's so good at those through balls. Also, he covers every blade of grass. I don't think of it. There's not many other midfielders in the Premier League who I think you could go in and just grab. So I think it's got to be something. I think it's got to be a combination of two players. We'll be linked with Stiller from Stuttgart, the defensive midfielder, who I rate really highly as well. I think that one might be one to watch. I think in the end there might be two replacements for Bruno Rata because he is like two players in one.
Yeah. I really want Newcastle to do well. I feel really bad for them because, you've been promised the world and it feels like it's just all coming crashing down a few years later. It's not nice to see.
No, the thing is, and look, we can never get away from this conversation without mentioning PSR. That is the thing. Like, Newcastle have missed their chance to do a Manchester City and do a Chelsea. Yeah. And I also appreciate the argument of you don't want unrestricted spending. And my view on it is, I think that Newcastle, the rules should change just slightly where the sense of for example, last summer, when Newcastle get Champions League football, they're going in for Bryan Mbeumo. Manchester United going in for Bryan Mbeumo as well. Newcastle can't offer anywhere near the wages that Manchester United can for Bryan Mbeumo, but Newcastle had Champions League football. I feel like he still might have picked Man United, but it would be nice for the owners to say, okay, right, well, we've actually got a little bit of money here that we can just inject into that to give you the chance to get Mbeumo. Yeah. And then Mbeumo's got a decision to make. Do you want to go and play for a club who've got Champions League football and offering the same wages? Or do you want to go to Manchester United, which, again, you would still understand because it's Manchester United, but would have a bit more of a better chance. And I think that's where there needs to be a bit more of a give and take. There needs to be a situation where owners, ambitious, rich owners, if they want to, should be able to put in a certain amount of money each season. A certain amount. Yeah. I'm not talking £500 million every summer. That's mental. Just a certain amount to make it a bit more competitive and actually give these teams a chance. I saw Mark Pugac doing a really good thing. He's saying, surely the Premier League want Newcastle and Aston Villa to be good and be competitive rather than selling all the best players off. But that doesn't seem to be the way.
I'm not sure they do.
No, but they should. They should. Yeah. That's the point. Yeah.
They definitely should. You mentioned Manchester United just then. Speaking of Manchester United, Marcus Rashford wrote on social media recently his goodbye message to Barcelona yesterday. Where's he going to end up? Yeah, we
touched on this as well, didn't we? And I think Rashford's in a difficult situation because I think when he joined Barcelona on that loan and £26 million buyout clause, he was probably thinking, if I have a decent season, or maybe over 10 goals, over 10 assists, maybe win a trophy, I reckon that deal's locked in. Like I'll join Barcelona. In the end, he gets 14 goals, 14 assists, scores an El Clasico, and they go and get Anthony Gordon instead. I feel like at the moment it's more mentally for him. Like, how do you bounce back from that? Because you think you're going to you think you're joining Barcelona permanently.
Jack, I've got to stop you there.
No worries,
We've got a goal with John Dunn. John, what you got?
10 minutes gone in the second half, an equaliser. Dundee United 1, Rangers 1. It's a stunning goal from Thelo Asgard. Ball dropped to him on the edge of the area, flicked it with his right foot onto his left foot, and it's a fierce shot into the top left corner. Dundee United led just before the break through Lackey Rose, 4 in 5 games since joining from Newcastle Jets. Rangers, though, made 2 changes at the break. Youssef Chamiti, surprising he didn't start after 15 goals and a brilliant end to last season. Dan Neil is on as well for his Rangers debut since joining from Sunderland in the summer. And Rangers playing with purpose. Emmanuel Fernandez with a header over the bar. Asgard had an earlier shot 20 yards out that was tipped over the bar, but Asgard on the mark, edge of the area, stunning strike, and we're all level. Dundee United 1, Rangers 1.
John Dunn there reporting for talkSPORT. Now that was a goal.
That was a great.
That was a
Slightly
great
better
strike.
than the Dundee United.
That was, by the way, the shamelessness of him. By the way, he fell over the ball and then he runs off and does a knee slide. It's like, what is going on here?
You got to take it when you can get it. You got to take it when you can get it. Listen, Jack, thank you so much for passing by.
It's been a pleasure.
Great to see you. I think we can go right now to get the latest from the Commonwealth Games. Here's our reporter, Georgie Heath.
Yeah, the big news coming from the track is that England's Georgia Hunter-Bell has taken gold in the 800 metres to add to her indoor 1500-metre gold earlier in the year. Silver in the 400-metre hurdles in the men's for Jake Minshall, and also a silver in the women's for England's Emily Newman. So the medals coming thick and fast for Team England at the moment. Tonight's action will close out with the men's and women's 200-metre final, which will be starting very, very soon.
Commonwealth Games update on talkSPORT with BYD. Dare to dream with BYD and the Commonwealth Games.
Okay, next up, we'll be paying our respects to a true great of the game, Franco Baresi, who sadly passed away, age 66.
it's an amazing story, actually. It's almost a forgotten man. This is about Mykhailo Mudryk, who has been allowed to come back to football immediately for Chelsea. So you'll remember that this is a man who had a 4-year ban handed down to him for breaching anti-doping rules. He's not played since November 2024 after what was described as an adverse finding of meldonium, which is a banned substance in his system. He appealed against that sentence to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who have today said that because he accepted breaking anti-doping rules, they have agreed that the time served already is enough of a punishment. So Mykhailo Mudryk is available to play for Chelsea with immediate effect.
Can he even still play football? Is he good enough? He's not played football for 3 years.
Nearly 2 years. Well, Chelsea have released quite a long statement today, obviously welcoming the decision. They've talked about what a difficult period of time it has been for Mykhailo Mudryk. And I think this is the important paragraph here in the statement. We welcome the acknowledgement that advances in the applicable scientific reporting standards for more reliable testing mean that had Misha's sample been analysed under today's technical requirements, it would not have been reported as a positive test and no anti-doping rule violation would have resulted. That is an important part of the context surrounding the agreed resolution and allows everyone involved to move forward.
You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, broadcaster and Liverpool fan Rickie Haywood-Williams, and alongside me, broadcaster, Aston Villa fan Dan Bardell. Okay, so legendary Italian defender Franco Baresi passed away aged 66. A great at the game, Baresi played exclusively for AC Milan and Italy, winning 6 Serie A's, 3 European Cups and a World Cup. And despite being a small, statured centre-half standing at 5'9", Baresi was voted Milan's Player of the Century and had a number 6 shirt retired when he left. Regarded as one of the greatest defenders to play the game, Baresi captained Milan 15 seasons, making 719 appearances and scoring 33 goals. An absolute great of the Italian game, Dan. Very sad.
Yeah, 66 is reasonably young as well, isn't it, to pass away? Just a player I never personally saw play, but some players you just know, or you've heard about them, and they kind of define a role. And I feel like Baresi is one of those guys when, you know, people talk about good centre-backs, they'll compare them to Beckenbauer or Baresi. I feel like it's always been those two, and to achieve some of the achievements that you've just reeled off, play for one club as big as Milan at that time as well. Like Italian football back then was like they were all giants of the game. So
he was like the defender when Italian football was at its peak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I've heard Jamie Carragher speak.
Carragher speaks really highly of him,
as a hero, a role model, someone to look up to, like just a classy centre back from everything that I know. Someone that could probably play in the modern day, like the style of football now. That wouldn't have fazed him at all, would it?
Yeah, I think he was just a player that just read the game so well. Obviously not physically imposing, but just was so clever and was able to just be 2 steps ahead of everyone. I remember watching him in the 90s, like when, you know, after the Italian 90 World Cup, and we used to get like the Italian football on Channel 4. Yeah, Football Italia, Goal Lazio, like on Channel 4 on a Sunday afternoon. And just whenever AC Milan were playing, he was just a stalwart in the team, wasn't he? It was like, you know, Baresi, Maldini, like he was just like always there and just an absolute like giant of the game.
I reckon every Milan fan in the world and every Italy fan in the world puts them in their best 11 for those respective teams.
Yeah.
Maybe even like every person that's ever seen him play, and you're asking them to name the best 11 of players or what they think the best 11 ever is. If you've seen him play, he's probably in your best 11.
Yeah. In terms of greatest centre-backs of all time, he's got to be in the conversation, isn't he?
Yeah, look, when you think back to players who we didn't see much of or didn't see play, and I say that they define a role, the two that instantly spring to my mind are Beckenbauer and Baresi. They're the two that come instantly, just like if it's like left back Maldini comes instantly into your head. That's why I don't think you can pay like a higher compliment than that. If someone defines a role, you say like the Baresi role at centre back, like that tells you everything that you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Italian journalist Daniela Fisichella paid tribute to Franco Baresi on Breakfast earlier and explained just how special the Italian legend really was.
He will be always in the top 5 of greatest Italian players, of course. I think he would be the best Italian defender ever. The discussion is whether was he stronger than Gaetano Scirea, the libero of Juventus, who was 1992 World Cup winner. Was he in the same mold of Franz Beckenbauer? We are talking about that kind of stature, because again, the way of he interpret the role of a centre-back libero, but also reinvented. He was not just a pacey man marker that would not allow you to move, to score or to shoot, but he was the first constructor of the play.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And we spoke about Football Italia earlier. Former host of Channel 4's Football Italia programme, James Richardson, also paid his respects.
I think it's something that highlights, not just for Milan fans, but the difference between how the Italian game was and names from the past always acquire a legendary status. But there's no doubt there was an incredible generation or series of generations that made the Italian game the most respected in the world. And his passing kind of highlights maybe the way that era has passed. But, you mentioned him being the Milan player of the century. Think of the players that they had in that century. It's extraordinary. And this guy, never given the Ballon d'Or because the defender, sure. But he was just extraordinary. He was a rock everything was built on. 5'9". Inter, actually, his brother played for Inter. And he was turned down by the Nerazzurri because he was too short. And that worked well. So he goes to Milan, where he becomes just this bandera, this legend of the club, and for Italy as well. I mean, an extraordinary player.
James Richardson there from Football Italia from back in the 90s, Channel 4's iconic programme, paying his respects there to the late, great Franco Baresi. Brilliant stuff. So in other news, in Italy, Roberto Mancini has returned to Italy's national team as the manager, with Claudio Ranieri becoming the technical director. The former Leicester boss replaced Paolo Maldini, who left after Andrea Pirlo wasn't given the manager's role. How are you feeling about that, Dan?
Italy have been an absolute mess, haven't they?
It's crazy.
3 consecutive World Cups they've not qualified for. I know they've won the Euros in the midst of that. I guess when nothing's working, go back to something that's worked before, and that appears to be what they've done with Mancini.
Yeah. I think that I heard that the fact that they tried to get Andrea Pirlo, it was kind of they're clutching at straws a little bit. He was obviously a great player, like we know that, unbelievable player. But in terms of management, maybe didn't have the resume, and they were kind of just trying to throw he's from a bygone era. Let's put him in there. Let's get him in there because obviously he was a great player, but that doesn't always work out, does it?
No, there's just been so much turmoil there. They've obviously made quite public advances to Pep as well, haven't they? There was murmurs of Ancelotti at one point that they were talking to him as well, although that felt a little bit like a publicity stunt at the time when that came out to make it seem like they were doing the right things. A load of people have left off the back of this disaster. A nation like Italy should not be in the state that they are in right now, but maybe the quality of play just isn't there at the moment. Obviously, it's not there because they're not qualifying for World Cups. But you think of some of the kind of great Italian number 9s, for example, over the years.
Christian Vieri.
Yeah. If you ask me now who Italy's number 9 is, I genuinely don't know.
No, I agree. Yeah,
you would always have known that in the era where Italian football was like something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying with the Italian theme, England centre-back John Stones finally joined Inter Milan on a 2-year contract. I saw his social media post earlier. It was very, very good.
Do you reckon he rused the day he did that shot? That's all he does.
It's all he's going to be known for, that shoulder celebration there.
It was a little bit like Tuchel's Dan Burn, because he put Dan Burn on after the Mexico game, and then John Stones did the Mexico thing, and then he tried to get him to do it again in the game after, and it didn't quite have the same effect. So I reckon he wishes he'd never done that, John Stones. But great pickup for Inter. I think the way they play in a back three, I think the style of football, the fact that he probably won't play every week as well, will just suit him down to a T. And I always really respect the Englishmen that go over and play abroad, especially in Italy. Quite a few have gone over to Italy in the last 5 years or so, and he probably doesn't speak the language, but he'll go over there and experience the culture, have the excellent food, and probably have a really good time. Probably win some trophies like he's done all through his career.
The food. I've been to Italy a couple of times. The food is out of this world.
I'm half Italian.
Mate, Dan. Obviously, you know.
Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely elite. So, good luck to John Stones out there. Hopefully, it goes well for him at Inter Milan. Signed the 2-year contract. Great work. All right, so let's get the latest from the Scottish Premiership right now between Dundee United and Rangers. Here's John Dunn.
20 minutes remaining on the opening day or the opening game of the Scottish Premiership season. Dundee United won, Rangers won. Dundee United led just before half-time. Lackey Rose, the Australian, scoring with a fortunate goal. Rose has just been replaced by fellow Australian Daniel Benny. Rangers in the second half have certainly dominated, finally got the equaliser through Thello Asgard. Neat finish from the edge of the area, controlling with his right foot to steer the ball away from a Dundee United defender before left-footed arrowing a ball into the top left corner. Since that goal, Rangers have lost that attacking impetus. They were creating chances, causing all kinds of problems, but since scoring just seems to have eased off slightly, meaning the game is back in the balance. Dundee United, in the last 15 games when they scored the first goal, haven't lost. Rangers, the last 3 seasons, have dropped points on the opening game of the season, and with 20 to go, it's Dundee United 1, Rangers 1.
John Dunn there reporting for talkSPORT. Okay, next up, we're going to be discussing some reports breaking tonight which involve Vinicius Jr.
Liverpool are set to place an opening bid for Bradley Barcola, but what PSG want and what Liverpool are willing to offer at the moment seems quite far away.
Yeah, there's a goal for valuation, but that's normal. PSG's starting position is £145 million, and my information is that in terms of the fixed fee, Liverpool are looking at roughly 80 million, maybe some add-ons on top. But that's the starting point. And knowing this is going to be a difficult negotiation because of PSG's starting position and the fact that they haven't signed Yan Diomande, Liverpool might need to be patient. And my expectation is it might run a similar course to Alexander Isak. And by that, I don't mean the player will agitate and go on strike. But what I do mean is with Alexander Isak, Liverpool placed what they thought was a fair offer early. When it was rejected, they waited until right towards the end of the window and the deal got done in the final hours. And you may note that Newcastle went from not for sale to 125 million, and somewhere in the middle, they were asking for 150 million about 3 weeks before the deal got done. So PSG's starting position, 145, very normal in deals for that to come down by 20 to 25 million. If Liverpool are prepared to go up by 10 or 15 million, suddenly the parties are not that far apart. So the first bid likely testing the water, and then we'll understand whether PSG are grandstanding or they genuinely believe that they can get over £20 million more than the deal that saw Morgan Rogers.
You're listening to the Transfer Insiders with myself, Rickie Haywood-Williams, and super Aston Villa fan Dan Bardell. Dan, it's all popping off at the minute, man. Oh my word. Reports tonight that Vinicius Jr. has agreed personal terms with Arsenal. Wow. I did not see this one coming. I thought this was all like just a bit of a smoke screen to kind of get another better contract at Real Madrid, but it looks like this could actually happen.
Yeah, football's so weird now, isn't it? Like, we're talking about entities like Rock Nation being involved, and it's come from a really well-connected X account by the sound of things that I hadn't heard of until about 5 minutes ago. So obviously him agreeing terms with Arsenal from their perspective is a positive thing, but it doesn't mean it's done.
That's true.
He's going there. It used to be in football. If someone agrees personal terms with you,
it's normally a done deal. Yeah,
but that's not the case here, which I think is probably important to say.
Well, that X account is called the Hand of Arsenal, and it says Arsenal Football Club have personal terms agreed in principle with Vinicius Jr. Rock Nation will go armed into negotiations with Real Madrid with a monstrous offer from the English champions. Over to you, Vinicius Jr. I mean. This is massive. I know it's not agreed. I know it's not like fully signed, sealed, and delivered. But this is a massive deal for Arsenal Football Club.
It means there's a chance.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think it's Arsenal fans obviously get the mick taken out of them a bit for some of the overreactions and how they behave, and it probably won't be a fair representation of like match going fans or whatever. But it is exciting.
Yeah,
it's not a trophy or anything like that, obviously. But to be in contention for one of the best players in the world, 5 years ago, that wasn't going to be happening. It wouldn't have been Arsenal in the race for Vinny Jones. You're not hearing anyone else mentioned, are you? It's literally Madrid or Arsenal here.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to stress, Hand of Arsenal is an X account which profiles itself as being in the know, but it must be stressed that no substantial journalist has tweeted the same, but there are other reports online tonight about this whole situation. So it is exciting. It is exciting for Arsenal fans, especially exciting for the Premier League as well, because if Vinicius Jr. does come over to Arsenal, that's, like we were talking about earlier, that is a player that is at the peak of their powers in the Premier League.
Yeah, and you can get burnt being in the know. I'm still waiting for Jack Butland to sign for Villa, like I revealed on Twitter about 7-8 years ago. I think for the Premier League, if we get him in, I'm saying we like I'm part of the Premier League. If the Premier League gets Vinny Jr. in, it's the most stellar signing that's been made in Premier League history. This is a player that's in contention for the Ballon d'Or most years. A high-level player for Real Madrid, has been one of Real Madrid's best players for a number of years now. Like, arguably the best left-sided player in the world. Like, if the best player in the world in their position is coming to the Premier League, that's something that hasn't happened too many times, I would say.
I'd say it's him or Kvaratskhelia, the best two left wingers.
Yeah, it's not much between them. They're different styles of players, I guess, to an extent. But Vinny Jr. has been at the highest level, productive every single season for a long time. If Arsenal fans would lose their mind.
Could you imagine the parade?
Imagine the shirt
have a parade for the signing.
And I wouldn't blame them.
No, I wouldn't blame them at all. I wouldn't blame them at all. But could this just be a power play by Rock Nation, who Vinicius Jr. is signed to? That's his agency. Maybe they're just trying to take this into their contract negotiations with Real Madrid.
I guess it could be. I guess you can't rule anything out, but I kind of feel like there's too much noise for it to simply be that. I don't feel like I've got anything to compare it to either.
Yeah.
You know, when sometimes a transfer deal comes into the mix, comes into the frame, and you've got something to compare it to. This is like uncharted territory. I don't feel like there's anything of this ilk that's ever happened before.
All right, let's skip a beat. If he did sign, how much do you think it could be worth? How much do you think his wages would be? I think they're rumoured to be around 475,000 a week.
I was going to say 500,000 a week.
Yeah.
Wouldn't shock me if you probably take into account appearance fees, assist bonuses, goal bonus, and all that kind of thing. It probably is bordering on 500,000 a week.
Can Arsenal afford that? Can they match that? Can they go above that?
I guess they can afford it because it's agreed. So they must be able to. Arsenal have progressed quite a lot over the last 5 years, both on the pitch and off the pitch, to the point where, like, the financials, the money that they make commercially, the deals that they have with various companies, like, there's a lot of stuff going on at Arsenal, isn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, a lot of big deals. And they've got a serious guy behind the scenes doing the transfers. We saw that 12 months ago, though nothing to this extent, because this probably wouldn't have been a thing 12 months ago. But now they've won the Premier League, Vinny Jr. could be the missing piece that takes them to that final hurdle that they were very close to doing last season in winning the Champions League as well.
It could be the missing piece for further domination with Arsenal in the Premier League and beyond. But like I said earlier, this is just a rumour. It's from an ex-account called The Hand of Arsenal, which is it prides itself on being in the know. It must be stressed that no substantial journalist has tweeted the same, but there are reports online tonight. But what we can do is go to Ben Jacobs, who brought us the latest on Arsenal's pursuit of Bruno Guimaraes.
Bruno Guimaraes and Arsenal is moving. We heard some reports this morning of an agreement in principle, slightly premature, but it could break at any point this evening or tomorrow. The fixed part of a total package that will certainly be north of £75 million is essentially in place. And now the parties are working on the add-ons. So why do Newcastle United deny any advanced talks or any formal bid? It's because everything is verbal, as it was when Arsenal signed Christos Solis. And when Arsenal have everything on paper, they will then put that into a formal bid. And they are getting to that point with verbal discussions. It's moving fast. Now, Bruno Guimaraes is not with Newcastle in La Manga yet, but he's quite prepared to return on Sunday ahead of his first Monday training session if there is still not an agreement. So we mustn't bill this as Bruno Guimaraes not wanting to return to Newcastle. He's not going to go on strike, as with Alexander Isak, but he, with the club, has decided to wait just a couple of days and fly direct to La Manga, where Newcastle United have pre-season training, if an agreement is not reached. And he might even go there anyway, because goodbyes are, of course, in order as well.
The brilliant Ben Jacobs there reporting for us on the Bruno Guimaraes situation. Where does Bruno fit for Arsenal, Dan?
In the first 11, in the main.
He goes straight in, doesn't he?
Yeah, and look, Arsenal have got a lot of fantastic players to choose from in those positions. But I think what they're trying to do is Arsenal, they've already got a really strong squad. They're trying to get every area so that if someone drops out, like if Declan Rice, who obviously has struggled a bit in the World Cup with fitness, if he's not there, there's no drop-off.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Declan needs that backup, doesn't he?
If you've suddenly got Bruno in there as well, you've got all kinds of different combinations that you can play. Miles Lewis-Skelly played in midfield towards the end of the season and looked absolutely superb in that position. You've got two kind of 10s that play as 8s in Ødegaard and Eze. You've just got quality all over the park, and you can interchange. It doesn't matter how deep you go in competitions. To be honest, there wasn't really a massive drop off at any point last season, was there? And they went all the way in the Premier League and all the way in the Champions League,
because that's what their problem was in seasons gone by.
It's just quality, quality. But they'll have quality and quantity. Suddenly adding Vinny Jr. in the mix as well. Then forget everyone else. I think in a transitional season for the rest of the big boys, I think everyone else can forget about it.
So Arsenal are the only team in the Big Six that their manager is already in situ that they had last season, basically, and before that. Does that give them an advantage, do you think? Or how big an advantage does that give them?
I think it's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
I think this season's, or this off-season's a complete one-off to have the kind of changes that you've had at all the big teams in the dugout. I mean, I think the changes in manager overall over the last 12 months, like it's absolutely frightening how quickly clubs go through managers nowadays. And Man City over the years have kind of been built on that stability and that constant of having Pep. That's not there anymore. That's now Arsenal. And now what be desperate to do back-to-back Premier Leagues. They'll be desperate to go all the way in the Champions League and just get over that final step. Obviously, in Premier League terms, they went close a few times before they got over that hurdle and won that trophy. They're pretty much there in the Champions League, aren't they, in terms of getting to a final? They've just got to take that one last leap. That's the hardest one to actually deliver the trophy. I think they're very well set, despite having not done business yet, really, of any meaningful nature. They're top of the pile for me right now, quite comfortably. I don't think anyone touches them right now.
So you think they're the clear favourites for the league?
I think so, just based on that, on the consistency of having the manager, a young group of players that's grown together, having the strength and depth. I think their strength and depth is a lot more than anyone else around them right now. I think we've seen how hard it was over the years for Arsene Wenger to be replaced, for Alex Ferguson to be replaced, for Manchester City replacing Pep. It's going to be really, really difficult. There might be times where they enter troubled times and go on bad runs. I just don't see Arsenal doing that. I think they've got a real chance of getting back-to-back Premier Leagues.
So it's incredible when you think back to when Arteta took over won the FA Cup and everyone kind of like lambasted him that wasn't his team that he won it with, and he went a few seasons where it wasn't going great at all, and then you come out the other end, he wins the Premier League, gets to a Champions League final. It's crazy to think the journey they've been on, but they are probably the only settled side out of the Big Six, but a lot of their players have played a lot of football. They've got, they've gone to the end of last season playing pretty much every single game that you could possibly, play. And then a lot of their team have gone to the World Cup as well. So is that going to go against them? Will they just be absolutely knackered? Will there be burnout?
They've got players that have played a lot of football, Declan Rice being one of them. They've obviously got a problem with Saliba right now, which they may well rectify in the transfer market. But in my opinion, they've already got a really good backup there in Christian Mosquera, who I think is going to be a brilliant centre-half and showed that at times last season when he had to step in various positions. I guess that's why they're trying to get Guimaraes. They could start the season feasibly with Bruno, Luis Skelly and Erdegaard, let's say. Zubamendi only played 21 minutes for Spain. It's just covering that vital player in Declan Rice, who they might have to acknowledge, look, this guy's burnt out. He's played an awful lot of football over the years. Before he went to Arsenal with West Ham as well, with England, like maybe he does need a little bit of a break. But if we get Bruno in, we can facilitate and put out a midfield that's still just as strong, that's going to keep us where we want to be. I think they're working quite smartly. You can argue whether or not, there's other positions that need strengthening there. And you could argue, are they a top centre forward away from complete domination? And I think that would probably be fair. But if they don't get that top centre forward in, but they sign Vinny Jr., I think that takes them to that level where they want to be. There, I think Arsenal deserve an awful lot of credit. I think everyone makes jokes about them. They joke about Arteta and the way he is, but their board showed patience at a time where they could have got rid of him when things weren't going well. They stuck to their guns. They believed in the project and the dream. And look at where they are now. I do think they're set to be a dominant Premier League side for a long time.
You mentioned strikers before. What striker is out there that could actually improve Arsenal?
That's the big issue, isn't it? It's whether you go all out for something that's a risk, or whether you look at the variety that you have with the two centre forwards now in Kai Havertz and Gyökeres and think, between them for a season, are they going to do enough to kind of match what a premium number 9 would do? Probably get somewhere near it, I would say. I think that's probably the way they're looking at it. But then in 12 months' time, if that premium number 9 did come up, they're in a position where financially they're in such a good place now where they can go and get that player. I honestly just think they're in, I keep saying it, they're just in a brilliant place, Arsenal.
They are. What are your thoughts on Zubamendi? Because I feel like he came in. I think Liverpool tried to get him before he came across, and we didn't quite make it happen because obviously he had his heart set on going to Arsenal. He goes to Arsenal, and he's kind of dropped away, hasn't he? He wasn't really playing that much towards the end of last season. He didn't really feature as much for the national team as well. And bearing in mind he had a blinder in the Euros as well. Is that why they're getting Bruno? They're going after Bruno, do you think? Or do you think Zubamendi is just, he's just having a bit of a moment?
I think there's a few factors at play there with what you've said. I think from the Spanish perspective, Rodri's playing in this position. So you can't take Rodri out of that Spanish team. So that's why he's played 21 minutes and not really been a mainstay in the Spain side through the tournament. From an Arsenal perspective, he played an awful lot at the start of the season. I think he maybe played too much. Maybe they didn't feel that they had the kind of replacement to take him out at one point. Then towards the end of the season, he did come out because he was obviously tired. I think Arsenal had to make a choice there. Who's more important, Declan Rice or Zubamendi? They went with Declan Rice. They kept him in for the majority of the season, if not the whole season. I imagine Declan Rice played more games than anyone else for Arsenal without having the stats in front of me. But yet they felt they could afford to take Zubamendi out. I think a rest, because he's had a rest in the summer because he only played 21 minutes. I think he'll come back refreshed. I think players are often better in their second season after having that adaptation period.
Very true.
Players often don't shine in the first season, but then are really good in the second season. He wasn't bad last season.
No, he wasn't bad.
He just got a little bit burnt out. And if they get Bruno in as well, the makeup of their midfield is frightening.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Arsenal. I'm excited to see, after all the jokes, after all of the all of the memes and the funny things that happen online over the last few years. It's nice that they're having their moment in the sun. So let's see what they can do this season. Right now though, let's see the latest in the Scottish Premiership between Dundee United and Rangers. Here's John Dunn.
2 minutes of normal time remaining. Dundee United 1, Rangers 1. Dundee United led just before the break. Rangers equalising through Thello Asgard 10 minutes into the second half. Rangers were on top at that point but haven't really found the impetus since then. Glorious chance for Dundee United to win this one about 5 minutes ago. On the break over the halfway line, ball switched to the right side. Rangers didn't seem to have a left back, and all of a sudden Jesse Randall was in on goal, one-on-one with the goalkeeper Ivor Pandor, but decided to just chip the ball into Pandor's hands rather than try and get the finish into the back of the net. Hands on head all around Tannadice, because that was a great chance for Dundee United to steal the win. Asgard for Rangers, an ambitious overhead kick that was well wide of the goal. We're heading into the final 60 seconds of normal time. Is there a winner on the opening game of the Scottish Premiership? Dundee United 1, Rangers 1.
John Dunn there reporting for talkSPORT. Next up, we'll be discussing Curtis Jones's future after his outburst in Liverpool's pre-season game against Wrexham. Welcome back to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm Rickie Haywood-Williams. I'm here with Dan Bardell, Aston Villa fan. How are you, sir?
Yep, really good, mate. Flown by this nearly 3 hours with you.
I know, man. It's gone quick. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a good one. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Great work. All right, so listen, our reporter Ben Jacobs can also let us know the latest on Curtis Jones's future after that video that's gone viral of him just kind of losing his head against Wrexham.
Have made a third approach for Curtis Jones. My understanding is that it wasn't a formal bid, but it was in around 35 million euros. It was put to Liverpool via intermediaries, and Liverpool's perspective is still they want minimum 40 million euros, if not closer to 50 million euros to sell. But Inter haven't given up on Curtis Jones.
Does Curtis Jones need to leave Liverpool? Like, for me personally, as a Liverpool fan, I love the fact that we've got Curtis Jones. He's the scouser in the team. I feel like that's so important at a club, having like a local lad in the team. But, you know, he's been at the club. He's come through the academy. He hasn't actually ever really been able to hold down secure a place in the starting 11. So I feel like maybe he needs to leave to kind of like spread his wings and kind of get the recognition that he deserves, because he's a really good player. He's a really good player. But yeah, maybe just can't cut it quite at Liverpool.
Yeah, I think he's a brilliant footballer. I think he's really good in tight spaces, intricate passer, like really good on the ball, like looks after it, intelligent. Like I genuinely really think he's a top player, and yeah, if he's playing every week, I think he probably would get himself somewhere near the England team. I personally think he's that good.
I think you're right. I think he's the type of player. He needs games, like just game after game after game. I don't think he can come in like be streaky. I think he
Some
needs to
players
play.
need that, don't they? They need
Yeah, I
that
think so.
consistency of selection and knowing that they're going to play as well mentally. I don't know him, but I get the impression that would be a big thing for him as well. Like knowing he was the main guy in someone's midfield, I think that would appeal to him. The character that he is. He's obviously had that argument in pre-season. I think he's probably just a bit frustrated in and out the team. Maybe doesn't know where his future lies right now. You got to remember last season Liverpool midfielders as well. Oh, many of them played at right back.
Yeah,
he was one of them. You're playing at right back and thinking, what's going on here? I'm a midfield player. I think he's a kind of player that could play further forward and be dangerous as well. I'm not sure Inter would be the right move for him. I'd like to see him stay in the Premier League and go somewhere. I'd like to see him at my team, to be honest. I think he's a brilliant footballer.
Hold that thought, Dan. Let's go to find out the latest from the Scottish Premiership between Dundee United and Rangers. Here's John Dunn.
Full-time whistle blows. Dundee United 1, Rangers 1, full-time scoring. It's the 4th season in a row that Rangers haven't won their opening league game of a season. This was the first match under the charge of Derek McInnes, who has gone striding across the field to have words with the referee. The referee clearly saying we'll have this conversation in the changing rooms. Not quite sure what the issue is that McInnes has had. There was a late challenge that maybe he thought should have been a corner rather than a goal kick. In terms of the game, he'll be frustrated because Rangers started brightly. Lawrence Shankland made the move from Hearts to Rangers, as did McInnes. 3 minutes in when a flick saw Jack Walton, a debut goalkeeper for Dundee United, turn one around the post. Walton on hand to deny Ryan Nadiri's header as Rangers dominated the first half but fell behind just before the break. Lackey Rose joining from Australian side Newcastle Jets, making it 4 goals in his opening 5 games in a Dundee United shirt. It was a ball in from Randall on the right, Stapsford with a step over. Rose stuck out a boot. It just trickled off the end of his toe, and agonisingly for Ivor Pandor in the Rangers goal managed to just creep over the line to give Dundee United that half-time lead. Rangers made 2 changes at the break. They came out in full force and created loads of chances. Eventually Thello Asgard with a right foot and a left foot to give Rangers the equalising goal. But despite the pressure they were having at that point, didn't really continue it. Game started to peter out, but then both teams had big chances late on, particularly for Dundee United when Jesse Randa was clean through one-on-one, clearly got caught in 2 minds and just chipped the ball delicately into the arms of the Rangers goalkeeper Pandor. Rangers broke into injury time, and Yusuf Chimiti, 15 goals last season, off the bench. Similar kind of chance, loads of time, loads of space, but his shot was straight at Walton in the Dundee United goal, meaning the spoils are shared in the first game of the Scottish Premiership. Dundee United 1, Rangers 1.
John Dunn there reporting for talkSPORT. So we were just talking about Curtis Jones. You don't think he should go to Inter?
I'm saying he shouldn't go there. I think I'm just saying personally I'd like to see him stay in the Premier League. Sometimes when you go abroad, you do become a little bit out of sight, out of mind in terms of England selection. And I do honestly think he's really good enough to establish himself in the England team.
And you take him at Villa all day?
1,000,000%. I honestly think he's such a good footballer. I think he's such an underrated footballer as well. Is he going to play? Is he going to play for Liverpool? Like
he'll definitely play. Like I said earlier,
in and out.
Yeah, I think he'll be in and out. But also I think personally, I think Liverpool should just keep all their players because Arne Slot really did shrink the squad, so we need players. Obviously, people are saying we haven't bought enough players. So let's just keep the ones that we've got who have got some quality. But yeah, I digress. Jack Grealish, just quickly, been left out of Man City's pre-season tour as he recovers from injury. It's done at Man City for Jack, isn't it?
Maresca did speak a little bit like there was a road back. I've got a lot of time for Jack Grealish, and I want to see him play somewhere and flourish. It felt like going back to Everton was the inevitable move. I imagine they're waiting on his fitness, and that maybe towards the end of the transfer window he might rock up back there would be my thinking right now, because he did well in the first half of the season.
Yeah,
I think he was playing himself back into England contention. I think he started really well. He was playing that well for him, and then obviously injury struck at a really bad time for him. I can't believe it. I think he's 31 next birthday. How's Jack Grealish 31?
I know, it's crazy.
Where does the time go?
Absolutely crazy. Definitely an incredible talent. Listen, that is time. Dan, you've been absolutely amazing tonight. Great work, my friend. Thank you for being here for my debut. Yeah. Touch me there, bro. Lovely work. This has been the Transfers Insiders. Thanks for listening. The show will be back on Saturday evening at 5 p.m. with Nick Bright and Angelina Kelly, and you'll be able to catch the podcast of this show on Apple, Spotify, Acast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up next here on talkSPORT, it's the Sports Bar Weekender with Adam Catterall and Carlton Cole.
Noticed that on social media, Curtis Jones liked the posts where Inter Milan announced Stones as a player.
He's acting like a spoiled brat. I saw his behaviour last night on the pitch.
This was after the friendly.
Yeah, I understand the frustration that you should have got the armband. He's been, he's a scouser. He's been there 20 years. Blah 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 blah. But to act like that and for it to carry on, because it went on for about 2 minutes.
Was it him and Dominic Szoboszlai?
Yeah, he was having a go at Szoboszlai, who handed the armband over, I think, to Tsimikas. Mm-hmm. And I believe Curtis Jones had the temper tantrum over that. It's just like that behaviour can't happen, not from a graduate from the academy.